Chapter 27. Selfish and Perverted Possessiveness. 1. However, at this moment, a cold voice sounded from behind him. Ling Gang, what did my mother do to you that you would betray her? The man in black was shocked and turned around. Under the moonlight, Ling Yuma, dressed in red and holding a long saber, slowly walked towards him. The sharpness in her eyes was like a sharp knife that fell on him. The man in black didn't think and turned to run. Ling Yuma suddenly raised the red lotus soul-stealing saber and fiercely slashed. The scarlet flames rolled towards the black-clothed man like a raging wave. The man in black quickly waved his hand to block. The red flames were dispersed by him, but his black coat and the cloth covering his face were burned by the flames, revealing a familiar simple and honest face. Who else could it be but Ling Gang? Ling Gang gritted his teeth. When did Miss find out? I don't think I've done anything. Why does Miss suspect me? Ling Yuma stared at him coldly. Who said I suspected you? From the beginning, I knew that the person who betrayed my mother was you, Ling Gang. Kai Lu, on the other hand, was implicated by you and exposed in front of us. Ling Gang frowned. Do you want to know why I know that you were the one who betrayed my mother? Ling Yuma said slowly. Because Willow Guqing said it himself and Auntie Hong heard it with her own ears. Now, do you still want to deny it? Hearing the two words, Auntie Hong, Ling Gang's pupils suddenly contracted. He asked almost urgently, Hong Mian is still alive? Ling Yuma's eyes surged with deep hatred. Do you think Auntie Hong can still be alive after falling into a place like Fu Sang City? Even if she's alive, it's a fate worse than death. Ling Gang, I'm not surprised that Kai Lu would betray my mother, but what about you? You've been by my mother's side since you were young, and you followed my mother willingly when she left Yunling these past years. My mother has treated you well and Auntie Hong has even regarded you as her own big brother. Just what benefits did Willow Guqing and Ling Shuqin give you that you would do something so ungrateful and worse than a pig or dog? Treated me well. Ling Gang roared. If she really treated me well, why didn't she betroth Hongmian to me when she knew that I liked her? Why did she marry her to some young master of the Jiang family instead? Ling Yuma revealed a stunned expression. Back then, Auntie Hong and the Jiang family's young master were in love with each other. Even I, who was young at that time, could see this. The Jiang family was a third-rate family in Changyang City, so they naturally could not be compared to the Lien family. However, Ling Wolin did not care about these things at all. She only hoped that Hong Mian could marry the person she loved. Later, Ling Wolin met with a mishap, and Hong Mian insisted on following Ling Wolin to Fusang City. The young master of the Jiang family was heartbroken for a long time. It was only a few years ago that he was forced to marry because of his parents' orders. Although their love had not reached the point where they would die together, at the very least, Hong Mian had wanted to marry the young master of the Jiang family with all her heart. She clearly didn't have any romantic feelings for Ling Gang. Ling Gang's face was twisted, and his eyes were about to split open. Ling Wolin is our master. As long as she gives the order, Hong Mian can only marry me. If she truly treated me well and treated me as one of her own, why would she not care about my feelings and betroth Hong Mian to the Jiang family's young master? To put it bluntly, in Ling Wolin's heart, I'm just a dog by her side. She looks down on me and doesn't care about my feelings at all. If that's the case, why should I still be loyal to her? I suggest that you reread the contents of the previous chapter. There are some updates. Chapter 27-28. Selfish and Perverted Possessiveness. 2. Ling Yuma stared at Ling Gang in disbelief. Just because of this? Just because my mother didn't agree to let Hong Mian marry you, you did that to my mother. The ferocious expression on Ling Gang's face slowly disappeared and became cold. Since she treated me like a dog, I'll let her taste a life worse than being a dog. As for Hong Mian, since I can't have her, I'd rather destroy her. No one can have her. Ling Yuma's eyes gradually turned red. She stared at Ling Gang, the hatred in her chest surging like lava. How could she have thought that the root of all the tragedies was a man's selfish and perverted love? No, that wasn't love at all. It was just a disgusting possessiveness. Ling Gang looked at her furious expression and laughed out loud. Since you've already found out, I don't need to hide anymore. As long as you and Ling Wolin die here silently, no one will be able to find out the truth of the past. Lian Xing can't, and the Yunling Ling family can't either. All these years, Ling Gang had been hiding in the Lian family, not daring to reveal that he had betrayed Ling Wolin. What he was most afraid of was that Ling Wolin and Lian Yuma were still alive, and the Yunling Ling family would come looking for him because of their friendship. If he was wanted by the Yunling Ling family, even if he escaped to the ends of the earth, he would probably end up in a miserable state. However, the situation was different now. The incident in Fusang City was so big, but the Ling family did not react at all. That meant that the Ling family had really cut off their relationship with Ling Wolin and did not care about her life or death. In addition, Ling Wolin and Lian Yuma had come looking for him. As long as he killed the two of them, he would run away. From then on, there would be no proof. He would no longer have to be afraid of the Ling family seeking revenge on him, and he would no longer have to be a slave to others. Ling Yuma looked at him coldly. You want to kill me? Ling Gang sneered and suddenly roared towards the sky. The clothes on his body suddenly burst open. The muscles on his body expanded inch by inch, and his entire body seemed to be inflated. His skin seemed to be plated with a layer of golden light. Ling Yuma's red lotus soul stealing blade slashed forward, but it actually made a danged sound and was directly repelled. Even the flames couldn't hurt his skin at all. Ha 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 ha. Ling Gang laughed heartily. Missy, I'm returning your words to you now. You want to break my Vajra invincible body. Could it be that you don't know that your mother, Fairy Roalin, was famous all over the world and had astonishing strength? But in terms of solid defense and close combat, even your mother needed my protection. It's a pity that all my efforts to protect him have all been fed to dogs in the end. Ling Gang's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He raised his fist and smashed it towards Ling Yuma. Let me smash you into meat paste in front of your mother. Then, I'll let you two meet in the underworld. Boom! A loud noise exploded in the night sky. Ling Wolin's hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. Her eyes were wide open, reflecting Ling Yuma's figure. But Ling Yuma, who was about to suffer Ling Gang's full-force attack, was not injured at all. She stood motionless in the same place. In front of her was a tall and sturdy figure. The huge fist and Ling Gang's fist collided, causing an earth-shattering wave of air. Ling Gang staggered a step back and looked at the person in shock and anger. Chapter 27-29. The evidence is in hand. 1. Ling Gang stumbled back a step and looked at the person in shock and anger. You, who are you? How could you block my Vajra fist? Qin Jiao slowly retracted her hand and turned to look at Ling Yuma. After confirming that she was fine, he turned around and glared at Ling Gang with his bell-like eyes. Anyone who wants to hit fourth junior sister should be killed. As he spoke, he leaped up. The rain-like fists mercilessly greeted Ling Gang's body. Ling Gang dodged with all his might and fought back with all his might. However, he discovered that when his attacks landed on Qin Jiao's body, it was just like tickling him. Qin Jiao's fists, on the other hand, caused his internal organs to tremble, and he nearly vomited blood. Moreover, the more he attacked, the more Ling Gang felt the powerlessness of his attacks and the fierceness of Qin Jiao's attacks. It was only now that he realized it. Domain. You've actually awakened the second domain. How is this possible? Ling Gang's mind was shaken, and he could no longer maintain the invincible Vajra body. Wine Qin punched out, and in a split second, his sternum shattered. He fiercely spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, unable to crawl back up. Only then did Qin Jiu retract his fist. Somewhat foolishly, he looked at his fellow disciple standing behind him. Mu Yan immediately gave him a thumbs up. Second senior brother, good job, you're really amazing. Ling Yuma also came back to her senses, her face full of gratitude. Second senior brother, thank you. Ling Gang's cultivation was at the 5th level astral projection. With the current strength of the unfettered 7, it was not impossible for Ling Yuma to defeat a middle stage leaving body cultivator. But Ling Gang was a pure strength type and defense type cultivator. Ling Yuma and Yun Ruhan were the ones who were best at close combat, and they were the ones who countered him the most. On the contrary, Qin Jiu and Ling Gang walked the same path. Unfortunately, Qin Jiu's talent was 1,000 times stronger than Ling Gang's. Under the buff of the second layer, power territory, Ling Gang's so-called indestructible body was like a vase that looked good but was useless. After being beaten a few times, it no longer had the strength to defend itself. Ka-la-la, it shattered. Ever since second senior brother came out of the small world, he has become more and more powerful. Even we wouldn't be able to withstand his fists. Hee, second senior brother didn't even have to fully activate his domain power, and he's already beaten this trash to a pulp. Listening to the chatter of the fellow disciples, Qin Jiu was like a child who was being praised. Her face immediately turned red. However, there was a simple and honest smile on his face. He scratched his head and chuckled, but he didn't know what to say. Qin Jiu had always been afraid that he would be a burden to his fellow disciples. Now that he could be of help, he was really happy. After laughing, Ling Yuma slowly walked in front of Ling Gang and looked down at him. Tell me, how did you conspire with Ling Shuqin and frame my mother? Ling Gang turned his face away and sneered. When I made up my mind to destroy Ling Wolin, I never thought of turning back. Lien Yuma, if you have the ability, then kill me. If you even frown, consider it my loss. He turned his head to look at the sluggish Ling Wolin, and suddenly laughed out loud. My life was able to drag the high and mighty Yunling Ling family's eldest daughter down into a quagmire, become a complete object for a man for such a long time, and let Lian Xing wear a green hat for a lifetime. My life is really worth it. Ha 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 ha. Ling Yuma was so angry that her whole body trembled, and the red lotus soul-stealing saber in her hand was about to be unsheathed. However, a hand gently rested on her shoulder and comforted her. Fourth senior sister, if you cut him down, wouldn't that be exactly what he wanted? Chapter 27:30. Evidence obtained. 2. Mu Yen winks at Ling Yuma. I like this kind of hard bone the most. Fourth senior sister, why don't you give him to me? Third senior brother, don't fight with me. Chu Mo Li innocently sits in the wheelchair, his expression gentle. Little junior sister is joking. I have a lot of leaving aperture corpses, so I don't have any thoughts of studying them for the time being. Mu Yen slowly walks to Ling Gang, revealing a sweet smile at him. Ling Gang is momentarily absent-minded. Under the moonlight, the girl in white is so beautiful and moving. Like a fairy from the 9th heaven who has mistakenly entered the mortal world, or like the most beautiful snow lotus in the world, slowly blooming in the night. Just a frown and a smile can even hook people's souls away. The god of death, Jun Mu Yen. She is also the most famous among the 7 demons of unfettered freedom, with the most titles, the most feared demon king. It is said that Fusang City, which has stood tall in the Shuzhen continent for thousands of years, was completely annihilated by her. But how could such a delicate, beautiful, and moving girl be a demon who kills without batting an eye? There must be some falsehood in the rumors. As he is thinking about this, the girl in front of him turns her wrist, and the Tian Mo Qin appears in her palm. She leisurely sits cross-legged in front of Ling Gang. Her white and slender fingers gently pluck on the black zither, playing the most lingering and beautiful music. You must do what you say. Hold on for a while before you speak. Otherwise, I will be very bored if my mood is interrupted. The melodious and sweet voice fills his ears. Ling Gang is intoxicated and snorts disdainfully at the same time. You want to torture the prisoner to force me to speak. Ha, it's just a dream. He used to be a death warrior of the Yunlingling family. From the beginning, he had undergone professional prisoner training, guaranteeing that he would not betray his master. And he betrayed Ling Wolin, not because he was coerced, but purely because his own heart's devil made him crazy. After half an hour. The night is still quiet and serene, the bright moonlight shines on the man who is twisting and convulsing. The entire side courtyard echoed with the howls of ghosts and howls of wolves. Don't play anymore, I beg you, don't let me enter the dream anymore, I'm willing to tell you, I'm really willing to tell you. Under the moonlight, the beautiful girl frowned slightly. She seemed to want to continue. It's only been an hour, and you've only experienced 5 reincarnations. That's a bit too little. Why don't we do it 2 more times? Only then can we be sure that you're telling the truth. Let me think, what should I let you reincarnate into this time? Wasn't it a little boring to be a spirit pet that was enslaved by others in his previous life? I think we should continue to let you be a human this time. What about female slaves in Wan Renku who were only responsible for giving birth to children? This kind of life like a sow will definitely make you satisfied. Cold Steel finally broke down completely. His hair had long since fallen out in clumps, and the originally smooth and firm skin on his face was now covered with wrinkles. When he opened his mouth, his loose teeth would fall out with blood if he was not careful. But the most frightening thing was still his body. Originally, his tall body could achieve the diamond body, but at this time, every inch of his meridians and muscles began to wither. His whole person was actually like a small, stooped old man. The torture that was greater than physical pain was always the destruction of the spirit and soul. For the 7 carefree disciples, it was only half an hour now. For Cold Steel, who was trapped in, floating like a dream, he had already experienced hundreds of years, 5 reincarnations. He would rather die, he would rather be cut into pieces than experience the 6th reincarnation. Chapter 2731. Evidence obtained. 3. Asking for votes. Ling Gang crawled in front of Ling Yuma on all fours and cried loudly, Ling Shuqin has been involved with Willow Valley City for a long time. I have evidence of her cheating and framing. I also have many other useful things. Eldest Miss, as long as you can let me die a quick death, I'm willing to give you anything. I beg you to let me die a quick death. Woo woo woo. 15 minutes later, Ling Yuma looked at the evidence that Ling Gang had handed over. Ling Gang had too many things in his hands. This man did not betray Ling Wolin after she refused to marry Hong Mian to him at all, just as he had said. It turned out that when Lian Xing and Ling Shuqin hooked up, he already knew it clearly. He even secretly used a photographic talisman to record the scene of the 2 of them hooking up. However, as Ling Wolin's confidant, he did not report these things. He wanted to leave behind this evidence so that after he successfully married Hong Mian, Lian Xing would give him a large sum of assets. With these assets and the support of the Lian family fort, he would be able to rise above the masses and would no longer need to be a slave to others. Ling Yuma looked at the image of Lian Xing and Ling Shuqin rolling together in the photographic talisman. She gritted her teeth in hatred. Lian Xing said that he and Ling Shuqin had unintentionally messed around after getting drunk. In the end, Ling Shuqin was pregnant, so he had no choice but to marry her. He had always insisted that he did not violate his vows with Ling Wolin. It was Ling Wolin who seduced Willow Valley Qing and betrayed their marriage. But the truth was that Lian Xing and Ling Shuqin had already hooked up a long time ago. They had even been plotting how to let Ling Shuqin replace Ling Wolin as the matriarch of the Lian family. Because Lian Xing had already had enough of being suppressed by Ling Wolin. Ling Yuma looked at the lifeless and soulless Ling Wolin and her eyes reddened. Did Lian Xing understand what his mother had given up for him and how much she had sacrificed for the Lian family fort? But in Lian Xing's eyes, all of this was not as important as his face. Tears flowed down from her eyes. She felt injustice for her mother. Why did she have to sacrifice everything for such a scumbag? She also felt injustice for herself. How could this bastard be her biological father? Fourth sister. Mu Yan reached out and held her in her arms, softly saying, "People can't choose their own birth, but they can choose the path they want to walk in the future. Winning streaks are winning streaks. You are you. Ling Yuma is our fourth senior sister. It has nothing to do with whose blood flows in your body." The others also comforted Ling Yuma. Only Chu Moli smiled faintly, and said indifferently, "Isn't it better this way? With these things, it will be much more interesting to carry out our plan." Ling Shuqin waited for an entire night, but Ling Gang did not return. Her heart was burning with anxiety, but she couldn't help but rejoice. Fortunately, she had tampered with the communication talisman to contact Ling Gang. During the 2 hours that the communication talisman on Ling Gang's hand burned, Ling Shuqin would be able to detect his whereabouts. Ling Shuqin put on a suitable attire, brought along her personal maid, and headed in the direction of the remnant aura of the communication talisman. However, Ling Shuqin noticed that something was wrong when she arrived at the noisy street. The citizens of Changyang City were already used to seeing her on the streets. Although there would be some people who would cast envious glances at her from time to time, it would never be like today. Almost everyone's gaze fell on her, and they even gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, pointing at her. "I can't believe that despite her dignified and virtuous appearance, she's actually so. M=Xiao Xiao, hope to get everyone's vote support, moi." Chapter 2732. Comic strip Lian Family Castle Mystery 1. The most unexpected thing is the head of the Lian family. Normally, he's a sanctimonious person. Everyone in Changyang City knows that the head of the Lian family only loves his wife, Fairy Ruolin. It wasn't until Fairy Ruolin betrayed him that he married a new wife, and this new wife is Fairy Ruolin's younger sister, a concubine that Fairy Ruolin took in for him. Who knew the truth was that he had already hooked up with Ling Shuqin. From what I can see, Fairy Ruolin's affair back then was a trap set up by Lian Xing and Ling Shuqin. Tsk, I was wondering why Lian Yunxiang would do such a thing with her uncle. So it's all inherited from her mother, no wonder. The comic strip said that the following plot will be even more exciting, but it won't come out until noon tomorrow. This is really annoying. That's right, I never knew that drawing could create such an exciting story. It's almost like it's happening right in front of our eyes. Ling Shuqin listened to the undisguised discussions around her and finally couldn't take it anymore. She pulled over a woman who was discussing to the side and sternly said, "What nonsense are you talking about? Do you know what the consequences are for slandering Master Lian and Mistress?" Ling Shuqin's harsh words and stern expression startled the woman. But then she thought of something and immediately raised her eyebrows and shouted, "Pa, you dare to do it but don't dare to admit it?" Ling Shuqin, what did I do? The woman pulled out a picture book from her Cosmos pouch and tossed it in front of Ling Shuqin. The contents of this picture book are known by everyone in Changyang City. Do you still want to deny it? What a shameless slut. You've clearly received so many favors from the Leng family and Fairy Ruolin, yet you still bite the hand that feeds you and seduce someone else's husband. Paw! The woman fiercely spat on Ling Shuqin. Ling Shuqin didn't care about reprimanding her for revenge. Her hands trembled as she flipped open the picture book. This album wasn't thick, but every single drawing inside was vivid and lifelike. Each sheet of paper was divided into 4 squares. Each grid had a character, an action, and a small bubble showing the content of the character's conversation. When the 4 grids were put together, it was easy to see what the person in the painting was doing and what was happening. As Ling Shuqin flipped through the album page by page, her fingers trembled even more violently. The shock and astonishment that surged in her heart simply caused her to be unable to stand steadily. The main characters in the painting were a man and a woman, and these paintings were too realistic. Everyone could tell at a glance that the man was the Lian clan lord, Lian Xing, and the woman was Ling Shuqin. What made Ling Shuqin's hair stand on end was that the words and actions of the man and woman in the painting were exactly the same as what she had done before. It was as if there was a pair of eyes in the unseen world that had seen through everything she had done, leaving her with nowhere to hide. Brother Xing, I'm pregnant with your flesh and blood again. I have a feeling that this will be a son. The woman in the painting cried pitifully as she nestled in the arms of the bare-chested man. I don't care if I follow you without a title for the rest of my life. I don't care if my daughter can't see the light of day. But, our son, we finally got our son with great difficulty. Are we going to let him be a nameless illegitimate child for the rest of his life? Chapter 2733. Comic strip Lian Family Fort Mystery, 2. The man in the painting frowned, but his eyes shone with determination. Shuqin, don't worry. I've had enough of that high and mighty Miss Ling Wulan. All she did was give me an ice jade marrow bone and she wants to step on me for the rest of my life. What does she think I am, a dog? By Ling Wulan sighed. As the saying goes, there are 3 ways to be unfilial, but having no descendants is the worst. The man gently looked down at the woman in his arms and promised, my mother has long been dissatisfied with Ling Wulan's inability to give birth to a son. As long as you can give birth to a son for the Lian family, I promise I'll give you a status. Ling Wulan won't have any reason to object. All these years, I've wronged you to be a concubine. But in my heart, only you, Ling Shuqin, are my wife. When my strength surpasses Ling Wulan's, I promise you'll be the mistress of the Lian family. The woman hugged the man with a grateful expression. Brother Xing, I know you treat me the best. As long as I can be with Brother Xing, I won't feel wronged. However, when the man left and the woman was left alone in the room, her expression darkened. Wait until you give birth to a son. Wait until your strength surpasses Ling Wulan. Don't tell me I have to wait for many years. Why? Ling Wulan, aren't you just relying on your good birth? Apart from that, which part of him can be compared to me? Your man is mine, and your position as the mistress of the Lian family is also mine. But this isn't enough. If I don't see you beyond redemption and lose everything, how can I be satisfied? Ling Wulan, just you wait, soon, very soon, ha ha ha. The woman in the painting had a ruthlessness in her eyes, more sinister and terrifying than a poisonous snake. Her smile was more twisted than a lunatic's. Just looking at this painting was enough to make one's hair stand on end. And at the end of the painting, there was a sentence, if you want to know what happens next, please wait for the next episode of Lian Family Fort Mystery, tomorrow afternoon. Bang! Ling Shuqin fiercely threw the album in her hand. Her eyes were red, but her face was deathly pale. She roared, fake, fake, everything is fake. Who was it? Who was the one who drew these things and spread lies? Was it you? Was it you? The woman was so frightened by her hysterical manner that she retreated again and again. After he stood still, He shouted at the top of his lungs, "Everyone, come and take a look." Previously, I only believed 70 to 80% of the contents of the painting, but look at this vicious woman. If this isn't a guilty conscience, then what is? TSK, TSK, TSK. Your face is pale with fright. I didn't believe it at first. I thought that this painting album was just like those legendary paintings, all made up. Now I believe it too. I also believe it. I didn't expect Patriarch Lien and his wife to be such disgusting people. When Fairy Ruolin was in charge of the Lien family fortress, she treated the citizens of Changyang City so well. At that time, I didn't believe that she was the kind of person who would do such a thing. Now that I look at it, it really was that dog couple who deliberately framed Fairy Ruolin. Ling Shuqin screamed, "No, this isn't true. Someone is framing me." "Heh, you say that the contents of the painting are framing you? Then swear to the heavens right now and make an oath with the heavenly Tao. If the contents of this painting are true, you will immediately be struck by lightning." Chapter 2734. The Strange Story of the Lien Family Fortress. 1. Yes, since you said it's fake, swear. Swear. Ling Shuqin looked at the aggressive crowd and finally broke down. She took out her weapon and threw it at the people around her. After the crowd dispersed a little, she fled in a sorry state like a stray dog, no longer bothering to look for any traces of Ling Gang. In the distance, the 7 people of the Xiaoyao school looked at Ling Shuqin's fleeing figure and couldn't help but smile. The show has just begun. Ling Yuma's eyes were cold. She looked at the tall and luxurious buildings of the Lien family fortress and said, "Soon, I will make you pay back what you owe my mother." Lien family fortress. Lien Xing's face was livid, and he roared furiously, "Now, immediately destroy all the albums in Changyang City. Do you hear me? Master." The housekeeper said carefully, "We have sent people to destroy them, but there are too many albums. Many of them were hidden in storage devices. We couldn't find them at all. Although the Lien family fortress is powerful, we can't offend all the forces in Changyang City. The big families in Changyang City, such as the Liang family, had their own resources even though their master was not as powerful as Lien Xing. Lien Xing's tribulation stage was not as powerful as the Lien family. Plus, the Lien family was a new rising star. Their real strength could not be compared to the big families that had thousands of years of history. Even if the Lien family fortress was the #1 family in Changyang City, they could not be like the Murong family, the Shui family, or the Dragon Soaring Academy. Lien Xing was so angry that he slammed his palm to the side. With a loud bang, a pillar as thick as half a person was smashed into powder. The whole hall shook as if it was going to collapse. Who did it? Who dared to slander my reputation? Ling Shuqin's eyes were now red from crying. Hearing that, she sobbed loudly and said, "Brother Xing, don't you know who did these things? This album will spread throughout Changyang City. Our reputations will be ruined. Who will benefit in the end?" Lien Xing was stunned at first, but then he immediately recovered. Lien Yuma. This evil creature, she really came to collect her debt. What about that evil creature? Tie her up and bring her here immediately. Tisk, TSK, TSK. Patriarch Lien, why are you so angry? A clear voice came from the door. Ling Yuma, who was dressed in red, slowly walked in from outside the door. Her fingers gently stroked the hilt of the red lotus soul-stealing blade. A man must admit to what he has done. Didn't you say or do what you did in the painting album? What? Even the patriarch feels that his actions are shameful. Lien Xing was so angry that his whole face turned purple. He roared furiously, "You really did it. Lien Yuma, you've ruined your father's reputation. You've ruined the reputation of the Lien family fort. What benefits do you get? Didn't I tell you about the benefits on the first day I returned to the Lien family? Leng Yuma sneered, I want to seek justice for my mother. I want you to clearly tell me, how are you going to receive the punishment for breaking the oath that Patriarch Lien made to my mother? Or could it be that when you and my mother made that vow of undying love, you never thought of keeping it? Or did you not let the heavens witness your oath? Chapter 27:35. The next episode of the Lien family fort mystery will be more exciting, too. Lien Xing's eyes wandered for a moment, then he immediately rebuked, it's natural for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. How is this considered harm? How is this considered violating the oath? If it wasn't for your mother being too domineering, would have already taken Shu Qin in, and my Lien family would already have a male heir. As a child, you didn't reflect on your mother's mistakes, and even dared to be so disobedient and unfilial to your father. Bah! I don't have such a shameless father like you. Leng Yuma mercilessly interrupted him, since you said you didn't violate the oath, then let's skip this part for now. She raised her head, and the corner of her mouth slowly curved into a mocking smile. Master Lien, do you want to see the next episode of the Lien family fort mystery, will you? I promise it will be 100 times more exciting than you can imagine. Saying that, her gaze swept across Ling Shuqin, revealing a meaningful expression. Ling Shuqin's heart thumped. Thinking of the scene in the picture book that was exactly the same, her heart surged with fear of being framed. How much did Lien Yuma, this slut, know about what happened back then? Ling Shuqin wiped her tears and sobbed loudly, Yuma, I don't know where you heard the rumor, so you added oil and vinegar to the story and spread it everywhere. I admit that I was wrong, and I also admit that I let my sister down, but you didn't have to be so vicious. It's fine if you destroyed me, but Brother Sheng is your father, how could you not let him go? Hearing that, Lien Xing became even more furious, and the spiritual power in his hands suddenly condensed. You evil creature, you still want to use this bullshit picture book to deceive and humiliate me? Fine, then I'll pretend that I never had a daughter like you, and I'll kill you with my own hands. The pressure of a tribulation stage cultivator filled the entire room, and the spiritual power crazily surged, mercilessly smashing towards Leng Yuma. But in the next moment, what appeared was not Leng Yuma falling to the ground and dying. Instead, it was the melodious sound of a zither, resounding between heaven and earth. A talisman paper that looked both real and illusory, dazzling yet transparent, was spinning gently in the air. Countless silver threads were emitted from the talisman paper and formed an invisible barrier around Leng Yuma. The barrier looked light and thin, without much spiritual energy fluctuations. However, when Lien Xing's attack landed on the barrier, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. It was instantly swallowed up completely. 6 figures descended from the sky and landed beside Leng Yuma. Mu Yan took the talisman treasure and looked at Leng Yuma with concern. 4th senior sister, are you alright? Leng Yuma laughed, with you guys guarding and Teacher Mo's talisman protecting me, how could anything happen to me? After she finished speaking, she took a step forward and looked coldly at Lien Xing. Her eyes revealed a look of ridicule. Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Lien Xing, you abandoned your wife, violated the oath, and are ungrateful and selfish. You are worse than an animal. Lien Xing was initially shocked by the talisman that could easily block his attack. When he heard Leng Yuma's words, his face contorted in anger. Evil creature, you were the one who disrespected your parents first. Leng Yuma didn't argue with him. Instead, she turned her gaze to Ling Shuqin and sneered, aren't you afraid that I'll use the album to frame you? Since that's the case, I'll let you see what is called undeniable evidence. As soon as her voice fell, a mirage stone appeared in her hand, and she activated it with spiritual power. The moment she saw the mirage stone, Ling Xuqin's complexion turned deathly pale. Dad is sick, the later updates may be a little unstable, I hope everyone can understand. Chapter 2736. The Lien family fort strange events. Next episode more exciting. 3. Mirage Stone has the same effect as the photographic talisman. However, the photographic talisman can record more images. Moreover, the image in the photographic talisman has a very low chance of being tampered with and erased, but the Mirage Stone is absolutely impossible. Ling Xuqin's body could not help but tremble violently. She wanted to rush over to stop Ling Yuma, but found that her body was weak and could not move at all. Sure enough, Ling Xuqin and Ling Gang's figures appeared in the image. This is Fusang City's lock buckle, you find a way to put it on Ling Wolin. She must wear it willingly, and maintain it for at least an hour. In this way, her thoughts, actions, and even her soul will be completely controlled by Willow Valley City. Doesn't Ling Wolin think highly of herself? Wait until she becomes the perfect object of Willow Valley City, or even the perfect object of all the men in Fusang City. At that time, I want to see how she will put on the appearance of a high and mighty young lady. Ha ha ha. Lian Xing, who was just shouting at Ling Yuma, saw the image displayed by the Mirage Stone and was stunned for a moment. He turned to look at Ling Xuqin in disbelief. This wife, who was virtuous and gentle in his mind, had such a hideous and ugly side. Ling Xuqin panicked at first, then immediately rushed over, hugged Lian Xing's thigh, and cried hysterically, Brother Xing, I did all this for you. I just love you too much. Every time I see my sister can stand by your side, you don't know how jealous I am. These words were sincere, sad and desperate, causing Lian Xing's heart to gradually waver. Ling Xuqin was indeed different from what he imagined, and acted ruthlessly, but in the end, it was because she loved him too much, right? The change in Lian Xing's expression naturally did not escape Ling Xuqin's eyes. She continued to cry, I'm sorry, Brother Xing, I know I was wrong, I shouldn't have framed my sister. But Fusang City's city lord has long taken a fancy to my sister, if I don't give my sister to him, I'm afraid he will harm you. At that time, the Lien family fort's power will not be able to compete with Fusang City. Husband, you can beat me, scold me, or even kill me, but please don't drive me away, I really can't leave you. Sure enough, Lian Xing's eyes were filled with pity. Ling Yuma, who was watching from the side, sneered, Patriarch Lian, you heard it. This woman personally admitted that she was the one who harmed my mother. Back then, you swore that you would never allow anyone to harm my mother. Now, how do you intend to deal with her? Lian Xing's expression changed unpredictably. After a long while, he coughed lightly and said, Xuqin is indeed in the wrong, but it is pardonable. You will be punished with confinement for a year. During this year, you must take good care of Ruolin and treat her as the real mistress of the Lien family. You must not slack off, do you hear me? How was this a punishment? It was clear that he was completely siding with her. Ling Xuqin was overjoyed and nodded repeatedly. Don't worry, husband. Xuqin knows her mistake. As long as big sister comes back, Xuqin will definitely treat her well. Lian Xing nodded in satisfaction and looked at Ling Yuma. All right, I have punished Xuqin and you have vented your anger. There is no overnight hatred in a family, and it is not a good thing for your mother to be wandering outside. You should bring her back as soon as possible. The position of mistress of the Lien family is still hers, and I promise I will not despise her impure body. In the future, I will treat her and Xuqin equally. Chapter 2737. The Lien family fort's strange incident will be even more exciting in the next episode. for Ling Yuma had long since given up all hope of winning, so when she heard these shameless words, her heart could no longer feel the slightest ripple. She chuckled lightly and said in a seemingly casual manner, "So, this woman who has harmed my mother's entire life, in the eyes of Patriarch Lien, is only making a small, forgivable mistake. 1 year of confinement is enough, right?" Lien Xing said unhappily, "Shu Qin is in the wrong, but she did it for the safety of the Lien family fort. Naturally, it's pardonable. This matter can only be blamed on your mother's restlessness. As a married woman, she couldn't bear a son, yet she didn't allow me to take a concubine. She even often showed her face outside. That's why he provoked the city lord of Fusang City. Now, I've let bygones be bygones and am willing to bring her back into the Lien family, allowing her to be on equal footing with Shu Qin. What else do you want? The position of the eldest daughter of the Lien family is also yours. Are you still not satisfied?" Before Ling Yuma could say anything, Luo Yu and the rest were already seething with anger. "Damn it, I don't want to interfere with fourth senior sister's family matters, but this man is too fucking inhumane. I can't take it anymore. How can there be such a disgusting and shameless man in this world? How could he be born in Chongyang City? He should have died together with those bastards in Fusang City." As the patriarch of the Lien family, Lien Xing had always been high and mighty and respected. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? Hearing this, he was instantly enraged. However, before he could react, Ling Yuma had already stopped them. Her expression was calmer and more indifferent than ever. Looking at Lien Xing, there was not a trace of emotion in his eyes. "What's the rush, Patriarch Lien? The next episode of the Lien Family Castle Mysteries hasn't ended yet. Don't you want to continue watching?" Saying that, he once again injected his spiritual power into the Mirage Light Stone. The Mirage Light Stone once again lit up, causing the image to appear once again. It was also a man and a woman, but the scene that appeared this time was a little different. This was because the two people in the video were not wearing any clothes. They were hugging each other and doing something indescribable. When the clouds dispersed and the rain stopped, the appearance of the two could be seen. The woman was Leng Shu Qin, and the man was unexpectedly Willow Valley Qing. Willow Guqing said, "Little Vixen, you really have the charm to captivate people. I'm a little reluctant to part with you. I want to take you back to Fusang City." Ling Shu Qin knocked on the man's body. "You're so annoying, I had to go through a lot of trouble to help you get Ling Wolin. You haven't done what you promised me. Are you trying to act shamelessly?" Willow Guqing smiled, took out a porcelain bottle from his storage ring, and handed it to Ling Shu Qin. "As long as Lien Xing consumes the extinction powder, he will no longer be able to make women give birth to children. TSK, TSK, TSK. Why else would they say that a woman's heart was the most vicious? This man wants to make you his official wife, yet you still want to give him the extinction powder." Ling Shuqin's face revealed a ferocious expression as she gritted her teeth and said, "Winning streak brought all of this upon us. He clearly said that when I gave birth to a son, he would get rid of Ling Wolin and make me his official wife. Who knew that when I used the secret medicine and finally gave birth to a son, he would use the excuse that Ling Jishuan from the Yunlingling clan had advanced to the crossing tribulation stage, and that he could not offend the Ling clan at this time. My son soon died, and the secret medicine also made me infertile. Since I can't give birth, why should he have another child? From now on, everything in the Lien family fort can only belong to me, Ling Shu Qin, and my daughter, ha 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 ha." Chapter 2738. Forced Marriage. 1. The light on the Mirage Stone disappeared, and the conversation between the two people came to an abrupt end. Lien Xing stiffly turned around like a wooden chicken, looking at Leng Yuma. Leng Yuma's whole body was trembling, her face was full of fear and despair, and she kept shouting, Big Brother Xing, you have to believe me, this is not true, this is a false accusation. Yes, it is a false accusation. Slap. A fierce slap landed on Ling Xuqin's face, causing her to roll several times on the ground. When she got up, her whole face was swollen like a pig's head. Lian Xing's eyes were filled with deep hatred. You evil woman, you actually used extinction powder on me, you actually hooked up with Willow Guqing long ago. I doted on you for so many years, I trusted you so much, and let you be the mistress of the Lian clan. As he roared, he fiercely kicked Ling Xuqin's body. Lian Xing did not use spiritual power, but used all the strength in his body. The physical strength of a crossing tribulation cultivator can be imagined. The bones in Ling Xuqin's body were broken one by one. She was also a nascent soul cultivator, such a trivial injury would not cause her to die or lose consciousness. She could only continue to bear the pain, and kept screaming. When she found that begging for mercy and wailing were completely useless, Ling Xuqin began to laugh hysterically. Lian Xing, you dog thing, do you really think I like you? Only that blind fool, Ling Wolin, would take a liking to a man like you who's all gold and jade on the outside. I seduced you, cough cough cough. I seduced you just to make Ling Wolin suffer and go crazy. You really think I have a deep love for you, ha 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 ha. When I was with you, every day I hooked up with different men. Willow Guqing is just one of them, a waste like you deserve to die without descendants, you deserve to lose your reputation, ha 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 ha. Slut. Slut. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Lian Xing was simply going crazy, his eyes were filled with ferocious killing intent. With a flick of his wrist, a steel saber appeared in his hand, and he ruthlessly chopped at Ling Xuqin's neck. However, before Ling Xuqin's neck could be chopped off, a clang was heard as the steel knife was deflected by a small stone. Ling Yuma looked at him coldly. I'm sorry, Patriarch Lian. Before this person pays off what he owes my mother, I don't intend to let him die so easily. As he said that, he threw the second stone under Ling Xuqin's terrified gaze, causing her to faint. Luo Yu immediately ran over happily, tied up the unconscious man, and dragged him to the side. At this time, Lian Xing also recovered from his state of madness. Wiping his face, he gritted his teeth and said, You're right. This vicious woman, if we let her die so easily, it would be too easy for her. Yuma, you did the right thing this time. Dad will remember your contribution. Ling Yuma sneered and ignored him. She turned around and left. Where are you going? Lian Xing asked quickly. Ling Yuma said, Patriarch Lian is really forgetful. I've already said that I came to the Lian family to seek justice for my mother. Now that the matter has been settled, we naturally have to leave. No, you can't leave. Lian Xing anxiously said, You're my, Lian Xing's, only bloodline, and the eldest daughter of the Lian family castle. How can you fool around with a group of shady people outside? Chapter 2739. Forced Marriage, 2. Hearing Ling Xuqin's words, Lian Xing hated this woman to the bone. He didn't believe that Lian Yunxiang was his own flesh and blood. In other words, the only one left of Lian Xing's bloodline was Ling Yuma. Thinking of this, Lian Xing slowed down his tone. Daddy knows that Daddy let you and your mother down, but Daddy was also deceived by scoundrels. Now that Daddy knows his wrongs, as long as you and your mother come back, I promise that no one in the Lian castle will dare to disrespect you and your mother. There's also the Liang family's marriage. The two families have been engaged since young, and Liang Rui likes you very much. I think the marriage should be set in March next year. At that time, the two biggest families in Changyang City will join forces. I want to see who would dare to point fingers at my Lian castle and me. Lian Xing said a bunch of things, but Leng Yuma looked at him as if he was an idiot. When he finished, she sneered, I'll say it again. My surname is not Lian, I'm Leng Yuma. From the day you cheated on Ling Shuqin, gave up on my mother, and kicked me out of the Lian castle, Lian Yuma was already dead. I don't have a father, only a mother. If you want to marry into the two families, then marry them yourself. It has nothing to do with me. Lian Sheng was furious. Stop, what kind of attitude is this? Do you know how many people dream of being the eldest daughter of the Lian family? What kind of honor is it to be the mistress of the Liang family? How can you not know what's good for you? Ling Yuma ignored him, carried the unconscious Ling Shuqin, and turned to leave. Someone come. Stop them for me. Lian Xing flew into a rage. The spiritual power in his body surged and fiercely attacked the 7 people. His attack wasn't aimed at Leng Yuma, but at the 6 of them. Lian Xing still remembered the hatred of the 6 people who slandered him. Now, they even wanted to abduct his only flesh and blood. New hatred and old hatred surged, and Lian Xing decided to kill the chicken to warn the monkey. He wanted to let Leng Yuma know the consequences of resisting him. Boom! With a loud noise, the entire Lian castle collapsed, attracting the attention of all the people in Changyang City. 7 figures soared into the sky and hovered in midair. Then, Lian Xing released a powerful pressure of the crossing calamity stage and led the guards of the Lian family into the sky. Lian Xing's eyes were cold as he said word by word, Lian Yuma, I'll give you one more chance. Obediently follow me back and marry into the Liang family. Then, I'll let these 6 bastards live. Leng Yuma sneered, dream on. Lian Xing's face was ashen, and a quasi-divine weapon, tiger-subduing saber, appeared in his hand. Good, good. You really were brought up by your mother. Disrespectful to your elders, arrogant and unruly. Back then, I wanted to teach you to be a virtuous lady, but your mother insisted on not allowing it. That's why you became like this. But now that your mother is gone, I want to see who can stop me from disciplining you. Today, in front of the people of Changyang City, I will let you know the price of disobeying your father. As he spoke, the tiger-subduing saber emitted a powerful killing intent and pressure. Lian Xing's eyes were fixed on the 6 of them. He had already made up his mind to kill all of Leng Yuma's fellow apprentices in one strike. It was because of these bastards' instigation that his daughter became more and more daring to openly disobey her father's orders. Chapter 2740. Grandpa. 1. All the cultivators in Changyang City revealed expressions of fear and panic. They knew that the Xiaoyao 7 were strong. After reading the book, they hated Lian Xing's sanctimonious attitude. But Lian Xing was a tribulation-passing cultivator, and he had so many original infant guards. How could the Xiaoyao 7 be his match? Everyone held their breath. At this time, Mu Yan once again took out a treasure talisman. The talisman had enough energy to defeat a tribulation-passing cultivator. As long as the energy wasn't used up, the talisman could be used again. But before Mu Yan could activate the talisman with his spiritual power, countless dark clouds gathered in the sky above Changyang City. The originally clear and sunny sky suddenly became overcast. At the same time, the dignified voice boomed out, enveloping the entire city. Lian Xing, you can't teach the children of the Yunlinglang clan a lesson. He did not purposefully raise his voice, but it was like a bell that struck the depths of the souls of every single person in Changyang City. Mu Yan stopped activating the talisman. Lian Xing's tiger-subduing saber flew out of his hand and hovered above the heads of the Xiaoyao sect. It was a quasi-godly weapon that contained the full power of a tribulation-passing cultivator, and it emitted a destructive pressure. It seemed like it could fall down at any time and cut the ants into pieces. However, Lianxing, who was supposed to control the tiger-subduing saber, froze in the air. His face was full of disbelief. His lips moved slightly as he murmured, "No, it's impossible," the thought flashed through his mind. There was a crackling sound, and a bolt of lightning tore through the dark sky. The thunder and fire fell from the sky and hit the tiger-subduing saber. Boom! The violent explosion and the aftermath of the spiritual vortex exploded in the sky above Longyang City. All the people in Chongyang City were affected by the explosion and fell to the ground. They hurried to use their spiritual power to protect themselves. Only the Xiaoyao 7 were protected by the lightning. Mu Yan had already activated the sound barrier of Divine Hands Weaver Heaven, easily blocking the aftermath of the whirlpool. Although the tiger-subduing saber was not Lianxing's natal Dharma treasure, it was still connected to his soul. With the tiger-subduing saber destroyed, he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, his face pale. However, this was not the end. Rumble. While everyone was still in a state of shock, the second bolt of lightning fell and struck Lianxing. Lianxing was already alerted when the tiger-subduing saber was destroyed. A huge cauldron flew out from the top of his head. It emitted a green radiance and firmly protected him. At the same time, he channeled all the spiritual energy in his body into the bell cauldron. This cauldron was called the Shrinking Turtle Cauldron. The name might not sound nice, but it was Lianxing's real trump card. If the tiger-subduing saber was a quasi-divine artifact, then this cauldron was a true divine artifact, the Turtle Shrinking Cauldron. When the lightning fell, the Turtle Shrinking Cauldron shook violently, and Lianxing's face turned pale because of the excessive consumption of spiritual power. But in the end, the protective shield of the Turtle Shrinking Cauldron was not broken. Lianxing's face showed that he had survived a disaster, and then he looked at the sky in horror. His hands, which were hanging by his side, trembled slightly. In the next moment, a figure appeared between Lianxing and Leng Yumo. It was an old man in ragged clothes. The dark clouds in the sky dispersed, and the sunlight fell on the old man's face, shining on his unshaven beard and wrinkles. Chapter 27:41. Grandfather, Grandfather. 2. However, he was just an ordinary old man who looked like a beggar. At this moment it was hovering in the air, but it gave off a terrifying pressure that made it hard for people to breathe. Seeing this old man, Luoyu exclaimed, isn't this the old man who blackmailed fourth senior sister? Leng Yaoshan, who was feeling pressured earlier, turned around and smiled at Leng Yumo. Don't worry, with me here, no one can bully you. Leng Yumo's expression was complicated. She moved her lips, but did not say a word. Back in the side courtyard, when she noticed that Leng Wulan's attitude towards the old man was different, she had already guessed his identity. The ancestor of the Yunlingling family. The number 1 of the Green Sky list. Leng Yaoshan, who was known as the strongest cultivator in the cultivation continent. He was also Leng Wulan's father, her grandfather. When they first met, Leng Yumo felt strange. She was not the kind of person who would take pity on the weak. This old man kept pestering her, but she was not angry at all. The conditions proposed by the old man were so unreasonable that she finally compromised and agreed. She didn't even doubt his motives at all. So, it was because this person was her grandfather. The power of the bloodline was just that strange. Seeing Leng Yaoshan standing in front of her, telling her not to be afraid, Leng Yumo's heart was filled with a different kind of warmth. This was something that she had not felt for many years, the warmth of being cared for and loved by her elders and relatives. But very quickly, the scene of her being chased out of the Yunling appeared in her mind. All these thoughts flashed past in an instant. At this moment, Lianxing finally recovered from his shock. The shrinking tortoise cauldron, above his head was still there. Gritting his teeth, he looked at Leng Yaoshan, trying his best to keep his voice from trembling. Father-in-law, why are you here in Changyang City? Pfft, who is your father-in-law? Leng Yaoshan did not hesitate to denounce him. You are a piece of shit with no morals, no capabilities, and no talents. You don't even deserve to clean the toilets of the Leng family of Yunling. The few of them were talking in the sky. However, Leng Yaoshan's voice was loud and clear. It was filled with energy, directly reaching the ears of the citizens below. Everyone was used to seeing the arrogant faces of the Lien family fort members. This was especially true for consecutive victories. He was a mighty figure in the tribulation passing stage who could not be disobeyed. Now that he saw Leng Yaoshan scolding him like a dog but not daring to say anything, he felt an indescribable sense of schadenfreude. Some people couldn't help but laugh out loud. Lien Xing's face alternated between green and white. After a long while, he finally said, Leng Senior, didn't you already expel Ruolin from the Leng family? You said in front of everyone that from now on, my Lien family's matters have nothing to do with your Leng family. Why are you meddling in my Lien family's matters now? Leng Yaoshan's face darkened as he said darkly, It's because I'm too stubborn about what I've said that I allowed trash like you to harm my daughter to this state. Now, it's not enough that you've harmed my daughter, you want to harm my granddaughter as well. Do you really think my Yunling Leng family is just a decoration? Lien Xing, I did all this for the good of Yuma. Before he could finish, Leng Yaoshan slapped him in the face. Do you think I will listen to a dog's quibble? I will first pull out your tendons, peel off your skin, and then I will settle the score with you for the past few years. Continue to write, it may be late. Read it when you wake up. Chapter 2742. Lien Sheng was so frightened by the anger that he took a step back. I was also deceived by that vicious woman. I admit that I was wrong. But in the end, wasn't it because the Leng family refused to accept me and looked down on me, which led to today's tragedy? Just because you're from the Yunling Leng clan, you can look down on us. Thinking of the anger and hatred he felt when he was humiliated, Lien Xing's voice became louder and louder. Now you want to take advantage of your power to bully the weak. Leng Yiwei was completely disgusted by his shamelessness. However, before he could react, the refined man on the right side of Leng Yaoshan had already walked forward and said slowly, Who said the one who wants to fight with you is my big brother? Lien Xing, didn't you want to be a peer? Then, how about I be your opponent? Lien Xing looked at the handsome man in front of him with a surprised expression. You, who are you? The man raised the corner of his lips, revealing a cold and sinister smile. Leng Zhishuan. Lien Xing sucked in a breath of cold air. The young man in front of him looked much younger than him, but his cultivation was also at the crossing calamity stage. All these years, he had been stuck at the first stage of the tribulation, but this young man was already at the third stage. If one were to say that Lien Xing was just surprised and jealous when he first saw this young man, then Lien Xing would definitely not be a match for him. Now, all that was left was shock. Leng Zhishuan. He was the young man who followed behind Ruolin without making a sound or speaking a word back then. How old was he? When they first met in the Yunling, what was his cultivation level? He didn't even seem to be at the nascent soul stage. Now he had reached the third stage of tribulation. Lien Xing's lips trembled for a long time. You. How could you be Leng Zhishuan? How did you reach the crossing calamity stage so quickly? The fact that the Yunling Leng clan had undergone 3 tribulations was something that many clans and sects in the cultivation world knew about. However, many people had always thought that the 3rd tribulation passing cultivator of the Leng clan would be Leng Yaoshan's younger brother or the old madam. Who would have thought that it would be Leng Zhishuan, the young adopted son? Ling Zhishuan slowly unsheathed his long sword and pointed it at Lianxing. Lianxing, now, do you still want to say that the Yunlingling family is a bully? A battle between two tribulation-passing cultivators should be earth-shattering and earth-shattering. However, the truth was that the battle between Ling Zhishuan and Lianxing only lasted for a quarter of an hour. The citizens of Changyang City, who were originally considering whether or not to hide in their houses, were all shocked. Just as he regained his footing, he saw a crushing humiliation that was sure to unfold before him. Yes, Ling Zhishuan had openly humiliated Lianxing. Like a monkey, he played with him for a quarter of an hour. All of the attacks landed on the Lian family head's handsome face. She beat him until his face was unrecognizable, and his clothes were cut into pieces. Only then did she kick the naked man to the ground. Lianxing lay on the ruins of the Lian family fortress, which had been affected by the aftermath of the battle. He couldn't get up for a long time. The self-healing ability of a tribulation-transcending cultivator was extremely strong. The superficial wounds on his face were slowly healed by the circulation of his spiritual power. However, everything that had happened in the last quarter of an hour was a great humiliation to Lianxing. It was more painful than letting him die. Lianxing was originally a person with an extremely strong ego. When he wasn't accepted by the Yunlingling clan, he hated the Ling clan. So much so that he later vented his anger on his wife, Ling Wolin, who had given him a new lease of life. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2743. At this time, being tortured by Ling Zhishuan, he hated the Ling family to the extreme. He raised his head and gritted his teeth as he looked at Ling Zhishuan, who landed in front of him. He thought that one day, when he made a comeback and had enough power, he would definitely slaughter the entire Yunlingling family. Just as he was fantasizing, Ling Zhishuan had already bent down slightly and was very close to him. A cold and slender hand slowly pressed against Lianxing's naked back. In a split second, a bone-chilling energy passed through the surface of his body and poured into Lianxing's back. It quickly traveled along his spine. Lianxing was terrified. What are you doing? At first, he was just puzzled, but then the cold energy in his body suddenly turned into a scorching fire. That scorching heat was so terrifying that Lianxing could almost hear the sizzling sound of his flesh being roasted around his bones. However, his spine was completely unscathed. Because his spine was forged from the Ling family's treasure, the ice jade marrow bone. Oh! Lianxing couldn't help but howl like a pig being slaughtered. What are you doing? Stop, help, ah. Amidst the shrill screams, Ling Zhishuan pulled out Lianxing's spine. Lianxing instantly fell to the ground like mud, struggling at death's door, but he could no longer get up. No. This is my spine, this is my ice jade marrow bone. You return the ice jade marrow bone to me, return it to me. Ling Zhishuan looked down at him coldly. The ice jade marrow bone belongs to the Yunlingling family, Rolin. Back then, she treated you with absolute sincerity and used this ice jade marrow bone to save your life. Who knew that not only are you not grateful, you even connived with Ling Shuqin to harm her like that? Lianxing, what qualifications do you have to continue to have this ice jade marrow bone? Lianxing desperately wanted to get up, but without his spine, even if he had a strong spiritual power stored in his dantian, he couldn't stand up at all, and couldn't even circulate it into his meridians. In other words, he became the only trash in the tribulation stage in the world. No, I'm the master of the Lian family. I'm a tribulation-passing stage cultivator. UMO, hurry up and get Daddy's ice jade essence bone back. Yumo, I beg you. Lianxing wailed mournfully and implored. Ling Yuma looked at the ice jade marrow bone in Ling Zhishuan's hand, then looked at Lianxing and slowly said, Patriarch Lien, do you remember what I asked you on the first day I returned to the Lien family castle? Lien Sheng was taken aback. Soon after, his own voice resounded in his mind. I, Lien Sheng, wish to marry Leng Clan's royal Lin. If I can get what I want in this life, I will cherish and love her. I will never let anyone hurt her, bully her. For the rest of my life, I will never leave or abandon you. If I go back on my vow, I will be haunted by my inner demons and never be able to advance. At that time, he wanted to make an oath to the heavenly Tao, but he hesitated for a moment and secretly turned an oath into a sweet promise that he could go back on at any time. Many years later, when he was having an affair with Leng Shuqin, he rejoiced in his decision countless times. Leng Umo sneered, back then, you didn't even make an oath to the heavens, right? It's just that in this world, the heavenly Tao reincarnates. If you don't believe me, look up, the heavens will forgive you. After that, she didn't say any more superfluous words and turned to leave. The six of them naturally left together without the slightest hesitation. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2744. At this time, being tortured by Leng Zhishuan, he hated the Leng family to the extreme. He raised his head and gritted his teeth as he looked at Leng Zhishuan, who landed in front of him. He thought that one day, when he made a comeback and had enough power, he would definitely slaughter the entire Yunlingling family. Just as he was fantasizing, Leng Zhishuan had already bent down slightly and was very close to him. A cold and slender hand slowly pressed against Lien Sheng's naked back. In a split second, a bone-chilling energy passed through the surface of his body and poured into Lien Sheng's back. It quickly traveled along his spine. Lien Sheng was terrified. What are you doing? At first, he was just puzzled, but then the cold energy in his body suddenly turned into a scorching fire. That scorching heat was so terrifying that Lien Sheng could almost hear the sizzling sound of his flesh being roasted around his bones. However, his spine was completely unscathed. Because his spine was forged from the Leng family's treasure, the ice jade marrow bone. Oh! Lien Sheng couldn't help but howl like a pig being slaughtered. What are you doing? Stop, help, ah. Amidst the shrill screams, Leng Zhishuan pulled out Lien Sheng's spine. Lien Sheng instantly fell to the ground like mud, struggling at death's door, but he could no longer get up. No. This is my spine, this is my ice jade marrow bone. You return the ice jade marrow bone to me, return it to me. Leng Zhishuan looked down at him coldly. The ice jade marrow bone belongs to the Yunlingling family, royal Lin. Back then, she treated you with absolute sincerity and used this ice jade marrow bone to save your life. Who knew that not only are you not grateful, you even connived with Leng Shuqin to harm her like that? Lien Sheng, what qualifications do you have to continue to have this ice jade marrow bone? Lien Sheng desperately wanted to get up, but without his spine, even if he had a strong spiritual power stored in his dantian, he couldn't stand up at all, and couldn't even circulate it into his meridians. In other words, he became the only trash in the tribulation stage in the world. No, I'm the master of the Lien family. I'm a tribulation passing stage cultivator. Umo, hurry up and get Daddy's ice jade essence bone back. Umo, I beg you. Lien Sheng wailed mournfully and implored. Leng Yuma looked at the ice jade marrow bone in Leng Zhishuan's hand, then looked at Lien Sheng and slowly said, Patriarch Lien, do you remember what I asked you on the first day I returned to the Lien family castle? Lien Sheng was taken aback. Soon after, his own voice resounded in his mind. I, Lien Sheng, wish to marry Leng clan's royal Lin. If I can get what I want in this life, I will cherish and love her. I will never let anyone hurt her, bully her. For the rest of my life, I will never leave or abandon you. If I go back on my vow, I will be haunted by my inner demons and never be able to advance. At that time, he wanted to make an oath to the heavenly Tao, but he hesitated for a moment and secretly turned an oath into a sweet promise that he could go back on at any time. Many years later, when he was having an affair with Ling Shuqin, he rejoiced in his decision countless times. Ling Yumo sneered, "Back then, you didn't even make an oath to the heavens, right? It's just that in this world, the heavenly Tao reincarnates. If you don't believe me, look up, the heavens will forgive you." After that, she didn't say any more superfluous words and turned to leave. Of course, the six of them left together without hesitation. Chapter 2745. Ling Zhishuan was still calm on the surface, but if one looked closely at his eyes, the anger and murderous intent in them made the Xiaoyao Seven frightened. "Yumo, do you still remember that girl's appearance?" Ling Yumo nodded, then shook her head. "I can't remember her appearance, but if I see her again, I can recognize her. Are you willing to go back to Yunling with us?" Ling Zhishuan's eyes showed a pleading look. "Only in Yunling can Wolin get the best treatment. I will never allow anyone who hurts Wolin and you to live in Yunling." Ling Yuma's eyes met three pairs of eyes full of ardent expectation, then she turned to look at the dull Ling Wolin. Finally, she gritted her teeth and nodded. She didn't want to go back to the Yunling Ling family, but she wouldn't let go of anyone who hurt her mother. The luxurious flying boat went to the Yunling Ling family. Along the way, Ling Yaoshan had changed into a black robe, and his face was dignified. He didn't look like the old beggar at all. However, it was precisely because of the change in his attire and demeanor that made him look extremely comical when he came to curry favor with Ling Yumo with a straight face. "I don't want to eat these things, I didn't specially send them to you. Girl, you can have a taste, if you don't like it, then throw it away." As soon as Ling Yaoshan left, the people of the Xiaoyao sect couldn't help but laugh. "Fourth sister, I think the Yunling Ling family should still be very concerned about you and your mother, there might have been some misunderstanding before." Hearing Ling Yuxing's words, Luo Yu nodded as she ate the snacks left behind by Ling Yaoshan. "I think so too. These few days, not to mention the precious treasures they've given us, just the care they've given to Aunt Lang is unbelievable." Mu Yen saw that Ling Yumo was in a trance and patted her shoulder. People's eyes don't lie, they look at Aunt Lang with guilt, regret, and heartache. Especially, that Ling Zhishuan. These days, Ling Wolin's daily life was almost all taken care of by Ling Zhishuan. Some secret things that men couldn't intervene in, he always quietly guarded outside the door, not willing to leave even for a moment. A tribulation-passing stage powerhouse did the work of a servant, but he didn't feel the slightest bit out of place. This kind of relationship was no longer something that could be explained by the love between siblings. Moreover, if she remembered correctly, Ling Zhishuan seemed to be an adopted son of the Ling family, but he grew up with fourth sister's mother, Ling Wolin. Ling Yumo smiled, and the depression in her eyes slowly turned into a carefree one. "These few days, with the people of the Ling clan accompanying her, I feel that mother's condition has improved a lot, and her eyes have become more lively. If she stays in the Ling family and is taken care of by mother's relatives, I won't stop her. But..." She rolled her eyes and laughed. "My mother will stay in the Yunling Mountains, but that doesn't mean I will. I'm a member of the Xiaoyao school when I'm alive, and I'll be a ghost of the Xiaoyao school when I die. Don't even think about leaving me behind." Everyone couldn't help but laugh. "Fourth senior sister, what if you find someone you like in the future?" Ling Yumo raised her hand and said, "Of course, let him marry into the Xiaoyao sect, just like Xiao Wu's brother Qing." In order to recapture Ling Yuxing, Ouyang Qing didn't hesitate to choose to marry into the Xiaoyao sect. Now, she stayed in the Netherworld Flame Valley to take care of Ling Yuxing's parents and assist Bai Yichen in managing the Netherworld Flame Valley, but she didn't have any complaints. Chapter 2746. Was Ouyang Qing not proud? Not outstanding? How was that possible? He was the current clan leader of the Ouyang clan and was once one of the top talents in the Starry School. But no matter how proud he was, his love and guilt for Ling Yuxing couldn't compare. Therefore, even if he had to give up everything, he was willing to do it. He was even willing to stay behind and let Ling Yuxing soar higher and higher into the sky. Ling Yuxing blushed at the mention of Ouyang Qing, but his eyes were gentle. The Xiaoyao sect members also laughed. After this, I want to go back to the Hellfire Valley, Ling Yuxing said. Yun Ruhan nodded lightly. The Xiaoyao sect and the Starry School are our true homes. As the seven were talking and laughing, the spaceship suddenly shook and descended. Soon, it landed on the platform. They had arrived at the Yunlingling clan. Oh my god! Luo Yu exclaimed as soon as he landed. This is the Yunlingling clan. Before them was a huge platform for spaceships. There was a flight of steps below the platform, and behind the steps was a long path that led to the palace. What made people speechless was that whether it was the platform, the stairs, or the path, they were all paved with crystal stones. On both sides of the crystal path were countless spiritual herbs and flowers. The air was filled with dense spiritual energy, causing one to be intoxicated to the point of fainting with just a breath. Fourth sister. Luo Yu grabbed onto Ling Yuma's hand. So you are the real Ms. Perfect, Wu. Please take care of me, please feed me. Ling Yuma slapped his head away and turned her head to think carefully. Do you think I should go back and be the young lady of the Yunlingling clan for a few days? I'll dig some treasures for the Xiaoyao sect first. Luo Yu nodded frantically. These ordinary crystals and spiritual herbs are not good enough. If we're going to dig, we'll dig them well. My treasure can't keep up with my speed anymore. It'll be great if I can change to a new set, Ling Yuxing said. Spiritual herbs. Fourth sister, remember to find some rare spiritual herbs. Mu Yen said. It'll be great if there's a tribulation cultivator's corpse for me to study, Chu Moli said. Yun Ruhan face-bombed. All of you shut up. Don't you find it embarrassing? Lin is it really my Lin At this moment, a scream came from afar. Then, dozens of figures emerged from the hall in the distance and soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, these people were right in front of him. The originally spacious crystal platform was now packed to the brim. Seeing these people, even with Mu Yan's composure, she can't help but slightly change her expression. There were dozens of them, and all of them were leaving aperture cultivators. Moreover, more than half of them were above the 5th level of astral projection. The Yunlingling clan was indeed worthy of being the #1 clan in the cultivation continent. As soon as they stood still, this group of people knelt down. Greetings, old ancestor. Welcome, patriarch. Among the crowd, only a middle-aged woman with some white hair on her temples and an extremely beautiful appearance did not have the intention to kneel at all. She suddenly rushed to the front of Leng Wuolin, who was supported by Leng Zhishuan. Looking at her silly and soulless appearance, the middle-aged woman could no longer bear it. She threw herself at her and cried, Lin my poor Lin how did you become like this? Mother shouldn't have let you go. No, mother should have left with you. Leng Wuolin was still expressionless, but sparkling tears slowly flowed down from her eyes. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2747. Cough. Alright, don't cry, Lin is tired and needs rest. As soon as Leng Yaoshan opened his mouth, the middle-aged woman turned around and glared at him fiercely. Leng Yaoshan, how dare you speak? If it wasn't for you, how would Lin end up like this? If you didn't chase them away and let Lin see the true colors of the winning streak, Lin wouldn't have to suffer like this. The #1 expert on the green sky list was scolded by his wife to the point that he couldn't even lift his head. All these years, he was also vexed. Ling Yaoshan had a bad temper back then, and no one dared to disobey him in Yunling. When Ling Wolin resisted, he got angry and wanted to sever all ties with her. But she didn't expect Ling Wolin to be so stubborn. She really left without any reluctance. All these years, no matter how bitter and regretful she was, she never returned to Yunling. And this stubbornness of the father and daughter caused irreparable regret and tragedy. Seeing her husband's drooping eyebrows and red eyes, Madame Leng couldn't help but feel sad. Is there really no way to cure Wolin? Ling Yaoshan didn't answer, but Leng Yue sighed softly. Before returning to Yunling, we went to Bright Moon City to find Dr. Lu. But Dr. Lu said that little sister's 3 souls and 7 mortal forms have been scattered, and she shouldn't live for more than a few months. It's already very fortunate that she is still like this. As Leng Yue spoke, he couldn't help but steal a glance at Mu Yen. There were still some words that he didn't say. Dr. Lu Mingguang of Bright Moon City was a disciple of Purple Cloud Realm's Mu Le Pavilion, and was one of the best doctors in the entire Shuzhen continent. Basically, there was almost no one in the world who could cure Lu Mingguang except for Mu Le Pavilion. But Lu Mingguang shook his head after taking Ling Wolin's pulse. Her 3 souls and 7 mortal forms have been scattered, and she is barely surviving by the power of the formation. She's just a walking corpse, struggling at death's door. If you really care about your sister, why don't you set her free as soon as possible? Leng Yue was shocked at first, then furious. Are you kidding me? I'm here to ask you to cure my sister, not to curse her. He grabbed Lu Mingguang's collar and was about to beat him up, but a pair of slender, soft, and white hands gently pressed down on his shoulder. Mu Yan slowly stepped forward and said to Lu Mingguang with a slight smile, Dr. Lu, it's better to be a little more careful in taking the pulse. Why don't you take a closer look? Has the 3 souls and 7 spirits really been completely dispersed within Adlang's body? Lu Mingguang was disdainful at first. A little girl dared to criticize his medical skills. But when he carefully examined it, he was shocked. 1 soul and 1 spirit, how is this possible? The Tai Qing Yang Qi had already dissipated, so how did the soul and spirit remain in the body without dissipating? Even in the cleansing joy pavilion, no one can do it. Ling Yuma pulled the enraged Leng Yue and said impatiently, I already said that no one in the cultivation continent can cure an illness that my junior sister can't cure. My junior sister said that my mother will be cured by her in the future, so she will definitely be cured. What's the point of finding such a quack? Only then did Leng Yue realize. His niece, this slender and beautiful junior sister, actually had better medical skills than Lu Mingguang. No, it's more than better. Lu Mingguang said that even the people of Mu Le Pavilion couldn't do it when 1 soul and 1 spirit that should have dissipated. But this little girl was able to do it. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2748. Moreover, what was even more frightening was that this young lady was not only skilled in medicine. The city-toppling killer, the #1 assistant musician in the cultivation continent, slaughtering Fusang City all by herself. It was hard to imagine that all of this had been done by a little girl in her 20s. Leng Yue's words caused the expression on Madame Leng's face to become even more miserable and despairing. She hugged Ling Wolin and burst into tears. Father, mother. At this moment, Ling Zhishuan suddenly said, I want to take Ruolin to the floating island soul nurturing pool for treatment. Ling Yaoshan and Leng Yue suddenly turned their heads to look at Ling Zhishuan with shock written all over their faces. Even Madame Leng stopped crying and turned to look at Ling Zhishuan in disbelief. Take Lin, to the floating island. Ling Yaoshan raised his voice slightly. Do you know what you're saying? Do you know that even a cultivator at the peak of the tribulation passing stage would have a slim chance of survival if he wanted to go to the sky-floating island? Ling Zhishuan withdrew his gaze from Ling Wolin. His voice was calm, but his tone was indescribably resolute. I've already considered it very clearly. Even if I die, I will not allow Roland to suffer like a walking corpse. Before Leng Yaoshan could speak, Leng Yuma had already stepped forward, the floating island soul-nurturing pool. What is that place? Can my mother be cured there? Mu Yan and the others couldn't help but step forward. This is not the first time Mu Yan has heard of the floating island. Back when Fusang City was facing the Myriad Caves formation, Qi Huang had said that the formation disk came from the floating island. It was not something from the cultivation continent. Mayan only knows that this world is divided into 3 continents, Yinwu, Shuzhen, and Shuxian. Separated by the space barrier, there was no way to communicate except for ascension, but he had never heard of the floating island. At that time, she also had doubts in her heart, but after a series of unforeseen events, she had forgotten about this matter. Leng Zhishuan nodded. I once read in an ancient book that all soul-related injuries, even if the 3 souls and 7 spirits really collapsed, as long as they recuperate in the soul cultivation pool for a few years, they will definitely recover. Ling Yuma said excitedly, where is the soul-nurturing pond of the floating island? I'll bring my mother over right now. Ling Zhishuan shook his head. You guys can't go to that place yet. Only I can take Roland there. Leng Yuma frowned. But before she could ask, Madame Leng had already pulled Leng Yumo and said excitedly, Yumo? Are you my granddaughter Yumo? Quick, let grandmother take a good look at you. Ling Yuma recalled what the maidservant had said before, and her body stiffened as she wanted to retreat. However, when she saw the unconcealable concern in Madame Leng's reddened eyes, her heart couldn't help but soften. Child, good child, you have suffered. Madame Leng hugged her and cried non-stop, if it wasn't for you, I don't know how much hardship your mother would have to suffer in Fusang City. Back then, if I had known earlier. Ling Yuma looked at the woman's sorrowful expression and suddenly said, back then, I came to the Cloud Ridge to ask to see you. I beg you to save my mother. However, he was chased out. Madame Leng was stunned. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What did you say? How could I kick you out? I didn't even know you were looking for me. Ling Yaoshan's face darkened. All right, the girl and Roland are tired. Let's go back first. This extremely daring maidservant, even if I have to turn the entire Cloud Ridge upside down, I will definitely dig her out. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2749. Yuma, come. This is a gift from second uncle. Take it, don't let those stinky brats cheat you. Let me tell you, if those stinky brats bully you, tell second uncle. I will definitely teach them a lesson. Ling Roland's second brother, Leng Yihai. Different from the rest of the Leng clan, he was not good at cultivating and liked to forge. His cultivation was only at the original soul stage, but he already had 5 children. Moreover, all of them were talented. The strongest one was already at the 5th level of astral body realm. In the Yunling Leng clan, if Leng Yaoshan was the pillar and Leng Yiwei was the successor, then Leng Yihai was the one in charge of spreading the clan's glory. Father, what are you saying? We finally have a precious little sister, how can we bully her? Yuma, look, these are the gifts we prepared for you. See if you like them. The Bodhi fruit in the back mountain has ripened. We didn't pick it, so we prepared it for you. Yuma, I'm your 5th brother. It's fine if you don't remember the others, but you must remember me. Move aside, Yuma, I'm your 2nd brother. I have the highest cultivation. If anyone bullies you in the future, tell me and I'll beat them up for you. At this moment, 5 adult men with extraordinary cultivation were squeezing beside Lang Yuma, holding on to their storage rings and showing off their treasures. The scene was comical. However, Lang Yuma felt a warm current flowing through her heart. It was an indescribable warmth. So this was the feeling of being loved by family. So these were her real blood relatives. That's enough. Why are you so rash? Lang Yue shouted, if you scare your cousin, I'll punish you to face the wall. The 5 of them were not afraid of their father, Lang Yihai, but they were afraid of their uncle and grandfather. Hearing this, they didn't dare to say anything and retreated to the side. But their eyes would glance at Lang Yuma from time to time, as if having a girl was like having a rare treasure. This made the people of the Xiaoyao sect laugh and feel happy for their 4th senior sister, especially Yun Ruhan. Yun Ruhan, in particular, remembered clearly how Shi Qing had looked when he'd picked up Lang Yuma. His body was riddled with scars, and his cultivation was half crippled. His entire body was filled with hatred and sorrow. She was completely different from the heroic, carefree, and warm woman in front of him. While they were talking, the servants of the Lang family came in with plates in their hands. The leader was a beautiful woman in a green dress. She didn't carry a plate in her hand, but only a wine pot. She walked to Madame Lang with a sweet smile and pouted, Madam, you're finally back. You don't know how much Si Qin missed you. As she spoke, her eyes reddened. Si Qin always wanted to go to the snowy mountains to serve you, but she thought that there was no one to take care of 4th master. She looked at Ling Jishuan shyly and timidly. But when he saw Ling Jishuan taking good care of Lang Wolin, his face suddenly stiffened. Madame Lang's attitude towards her was obviously more gentle, as she patted her hand, come and greet our Lang family's new young miss. Si Qin's gaze turned towards Lang Yuma. When she saw her face clearly, her pupils suddenly shrank. Lang Yuma's mouth slowly raised as she stood up from her seat. Si Qin. What an elegant name. It's such a pity that I didn't hear this name when I first met you. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2750. Si Qin's eyes flashed with panic. Eldest young miss, this is our first time meeting. Si Qin does not understand what you are talking about. Madame Lang revealed a puzzled look. You have met before. Before she finished her sentence, Lang Jishuan suddenly stood up and shot a sharp gaze at Si Qin. Back then, it was you who blocked Yuma's call for help. Si Qin was frightened by Lang Jishuan's expression and her knees went soft as she knelt on the ground. I do not know what you are talking about. Eldest young miss, why are you slandering me? What do you mean I blocked you from asking for help? I have never done that. Old madam, Si Qin has followed you for so many years, you must know Si Qin's character, right? Si Qin cried as she crawled in front of Madame Lang. This is really Si Qin's first time meeting eldest young miss. Ah. Lang Yuma sneered and did not speak. She knew that back then, that servant girl had the guts to chase her away. She must have someone to rely on in the Lang clan and was deeply trusted. Sure enough, Lang Yihai could not help but said, Yuma, could you have recognized the wrong person? Si Qin has been by mother's side since young, her character is trustworthy. Lang Yuma's eyes were cold and did not speak. Of course she would not recognize the wrong person. She could still clearly remember the scene when this maidservant had arrogantly chased her out of the cloud ridge. But if Lang clan wanted to protect someone, then so be it. At most, she would go back with her junior sister and 3rd senior brother and think of a way to secretly kill that person. However, it was out of Lang Yuma's expectation. Lang Yaoshan suddenly said in a deep voice, Lass, was she the one who stopped you from going to the Yun Ridge? As long as you say it, grandfather will believe you. Lang Yuma was stunned as she looked at Lang Yaoshan blankly. Madame Lang also shook off Si Qin's hand. Her face was pale and she was trembling with anger. Yuma, tell me, was it really Si Qin who dared to block your way? Don't be afraid, grandmother will definitely help you with your grievance. Lang Yue sneered at Si Qin. Don't think that I don't know your dirty thoughts. Don't you like Xishuan? But Xishuan loves little sister. So when you knew that little sister was in trouble, Yuma went to the Lang clan to beg for help, you still dared to hide it. Who gave you the guts to do that? The coercion of a cultivator at the crossing calamity stage is released, and Si Qin's face turns pale. Her internal organs tremble, and she almost vomits blood. She raised her head and met the eyes of the Lang family. Only then did she realize that everyone present was looking at her with eyes filled with anger. No one believed her. She had been in the Lang family for so many years and had served the old madam with all her heart. She was obedient, sensible, and hardworking. However, at the last moment, all the members of the Lang family would rather believe a little girl who had never lived in the Lang family than her. Only fourth young master. Yes, only the fourth young master. She adored him so much, so he would definitely believe her. Fourth young master. Fourth young master, you must believe in Si Qin. I didn't do anything. Si Qin cried and crawled to Ling Jishuan, trying to grab his hand. However, in the next moment, she felt a pain in her neck, and her whole body was lifted into the air. There was no emotion on Ling Jishuan's gentle and handsome face, but his eyes were burning with flames of anger. I will ask again, was it you who blocked Yuma's way of asking for help? If you dare to tell a lie, I will throw you as food. Chapter 2751. Si Qin's eyes flashed with panic. Eldest young miss, this is our first time meeting. Si Qin does not understand what you are talking about. Madame Lang revealed a puzzled look. You have met before. Before she finished her sentence, Ling Jishuan suddenly stood up and shot a sharp gaze at Si Qin. Back then, it was you who blocked Yuma's call for help. Si Qin was frightened by Ling Jishuan's expression and her knees went soft as she knelt on the ground. I do not know what you are talking about. Eldest young miss, why are you slandering me? What do you mean I blocked you from asking for help? I have never done that. Old madam, Si Qin has followed you for so many years, you must know Si Qin's character, right? Si Qin cried as she crawled in front of Madame Lang. This is really Si Qin's first time meeting eldest young miss. Ling Yuma sneered and did not speak. She knew that back then, that servant girl had the guts to chase her away. She must have someone to rely on in the Lang clan and was deeply trusted. Sure enough, Lang Yihai could not help but said, Yuma, could you have recognized the wrong person? Si Qin has been by mother's side since young, her character is trustworthy. Ling Yuma's eyes turned cold and did not speak. Of course she would not recognize the wrong person. She could still clearly remember the scene when this maidservant had arrogantly chased her out of the cloud ridge. But if Ling clan wanted to protect someone, then so be it. At most, she would go back with little junior sister and third senior brother and think of a way to secretly kill that person. However, it was out of Ling Yuma's expectation. Ling Yaoshan suddenly said in a deep voice, Lass, was she the one who stopped you from going to the Yun Ridge? As long as you say it, grandfather will believe you. Ling Yuma was stunned as she looked at Ling Yaoshan blankly. Madame Lang also shook off Si Qin's hand. Her face was pale as she trembled with anger. Yuma, tell me, was it really Si Qin who dared to block your way? Don't be afraid, grandmother will definitely help you with your grievances. Lang Yue sneered at Si Qin. Don't think that I don't know your dirty thoughts. Don't you like Xishuan? But Xishuan loves little sister. So when you knew that little sister was in trouble, Yuma had already begged Lang clan, you dared to hide it. Who gave you the guts to do that? The coercion of a cultivator at the crossing calamity stage is released, and Si Qin's face turns pale. Her internal organs tremble, and she almost vomits blood. She raised her head and met the eyes of the Ling family. Only then did she realize that everyone present was looking at her with eyes filled with anger. No one believed her. She had been in the Ling family for so many years and had served the old madam with all her heart. She was obedient, sensible, and hardworking. However, at the last moment, all the members of the Ling family would rather believe a little girl who had never lived in the Ling family than her. Only fourth young master. Yes, only the fourth young master. She adored him so much, so he would definitely believe her. Fourth young master. Fourth young master, you must believe in Si Qin. I didn't do anything. Si Qin cried and crawled to Ling Jishuan, trying to grab his hand. However, in the next moment, she felt a pain in her neck, and her whole body was lifted into the air. There was no emotion on Ling Jishuan's gentle and handsome face, but his eyes were burning with flames of anger. I will ask again, was it you who blocked Yuma's way of asking for help? If you dare to lie, I will throw you to the Cloud Essence Beast as rations. Chapter 2752. But in this Shuzhen continent, where the strong are as numerous as the clouds, this person is still invincible, no one can match him. I remember that you have a legendary story in your pagoda, it's about him. It says that this person was besieged by dozens of crossing tribulation cultivators. In the end, he was alone, but he led a group of summoned beasts, killing them until their blood flowed like a river, and finally swaggered away. Mayan stares blankly. This almighty was a summoner. Qi Huang, it seems so. I was bored and saw it in the pagoda. I thought that this person was a bit interesting, so I barely remembered him. What does this person have to do with the floating island? Qi Huang, before this summoner stepped onto the path of immortal cultivation, he had already married a mortal. But he loved his wife very much, and never married another. Although the two were mortals, they never had children. Until after he stepped onto the path of immortal cultivation, his wife unexpectedly got pregnant and gave birth to a son. This person's son was just like him, with an amazing talent as a summoner. In less than 50 years, he became a crossing tribulation cultivator. But when the stairway to heaven was broken, even if his talent was stronger, what use would it be? This summoner was unwilling that his son could only wait for death on the road of immortal cultivation, so he finally came up with a way to defy the heavens and change his fate. Defy the heavens and change his fate. How? Qi Huang tosses the spirit-peering chess as he unhurriedly says, ordinary cultivators can't break through the space barrier, but that doesn't mean that it's really indestructible. For example, Di Mingju, if he didn't care about the stability of the three realms and the punishment of the heavenly Tao, it's not impossible to forcibly tear open the space barrier. But that's also the case for an almighty like Di Mingju, who has divine power. For the people of the Shuzhen continent to hold a so-called divine weapon that's like scrap copper and iron, to achieve it, it's nothing more than a lunatic's ravings. So this summoner used his summoned beast as a spark, and used his own body as a vessel to refine a heavenly holy object. Mayan inhales a breath of cold air, a heavenly holy object. If she remembers correctly, even in the Shuzhen continent, there are very few heavenly holy objects. And in a land lacking in immortal qi like the Shuzhen continent, refining a heavenly holy object is simply unimaginable. Seven Brilliance nodded. In his usual arrogant attitude, he finally managed to force out a bit of admiration. This summoner is quite a character. If the stairway to heaven wasn't broken, he would have easily ascended to the Shuzhen continent and become a big shot. But then again, the things he has done are unprecedented. He's not necessarily inferior to the big boss. Mu Yen, he used his own body to transform into a sacred object to create the floating island. Seven Brilliance nodded. The specific scene wasn't recorded in the ancient book. In any case, he had his son use the heaven-soaring holy artifact that he had transformed into to tear apart the spatial barrier and poke a hole in the sky. A large piece of land on the Shushan continent collapsed and floated between the two continents. That is the floating island. Mu Yan looked pensive. In that case, the floating island does exist, and the soul-nurturing pool that can treat Aunt Lang must also exist. Seven Brilliant snorted. It's only now that the stairway to heaven has been restored, and there are fewer and fewer cultivators going to the floating island. Only then would these people doubt the existence of the floating island. These idiots simply don't know that the difference between going to the Shushan continent via the floating island and going to the Shushan continent via the stairway to heaven is like heaven and earth. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2753. Mu Yan looked at Qi Huang doubtfully. What's the difference? Qi Huang's expression changed slightly. His eyes seemed to be at a loss and irritated. In the end, he simply turns over and directly lies on the grass with his back facing Mayan. He snappily says, "If you're so interested, why don't you go to the floating island and see for yourself?" Seeing him throwing a tantrum like a child, Mu Yan couldn't help but smile. She was indeed curious about the floating island, but she had no intention of exploring it. No matter what's on the floating island, what she wants the most right now is to ascend to the Shushan continent as soon as possible and meet up with Di Mingju and Xiao Bao. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. On the godly speed-flying ship, the direct descendants of the Lin clan, together with the unfettered Seven Sons, were all silently looking at the rapidly retreating mountains and rivers below. Ling Yuma snuggled into Ling Wolan's embrace and hugged her gently without saying a word. Ling Wolan's expression was still lifeless, but her hands unconsciously clenched onto Ling Yuma's sleeves. Ling Yaoshan stared unblinkingly at Madame Ling, who had white hair on her temples. He opened his mouth a few times as if he wanted to say something, but he couldn't utter a single word. The sorrow of parting spread throughout the entire flying ship. "That's enough. Why do you look so sad?" Madame Ling patted Ling Yaoshan's shoulder and said, "It's not like we won't see each other again. Even if we really can't see each other again, for Lin, it's worth it." Ling Yaoshan grabbed Madame Ling's hand and said with a hoarse voice, "Ingrong, as long as Lin, is cured, I will definitely return." Madame Ling's eyes reddened at this simple sentence. Actually, she had always known. She had always known. With Ling Yaoshan's talent and strength, he could have long ascended the heavenly stairway and ascended to the immortal cultivation continent. He had been unwilling to leave the cultivation world. It wasn't because of the glory of the Ling family, but he just couldn't bear to abandon her, who hadn't been able to advance. Madame Ling couldn't bear it anymore. She threw herself into Ling Yaoshan's arms and cried, "Idiot, why are you here? The Shushan continent is where you should be." Ling Yaoshan didn't say anything, he just hugged Madame Ling tightly. After a long while, he looked at Ling Yiwei and said, "Take good care of your mother and don't let anyone bully the little girl and the others." Ling Yiwei nodded with reddened eyes. "Dad, I will. You and Jishuan must also protect yourselves." The flying boat slowly landed outside a forest. This is the Snow Demon Forest, on the outskirts of the Horton tribe. The purple cloud realm of the cultivation continent was divided into the north, south, east, and west continents. The most mysterious and isolated place was the northern continent. Many people had lived their entire lives in the purple cloud realm, but they had never set foot in the northern land. They did not know what the northern land was like. This was because there was only one power in the entire northern continent, the Horton tribe. This tribe was extremely xenophobic and powerful. The tribe was centered around the Cleansing Music Pavilion, which was an expert in medicine and auxiliary musician skills. It surrounded several villages and eventually formed a small world in the purple cloud realm. Even the masters of the major clans, sects, and dynasties would have to go through a lot of trouble to enter the Horton Plains. According to the ancient records, there is only one way for a cultivator who has yet to reach the tribulation stage to reach the floating island. That is to forcefully enter a spatial crack in the depths of the Snow Demon Forest. But the Snow Demon Forest is in the Horton tribe. Outsiders are not allowed to enter easily. The previous master of the Lang family helped Elder Cleansing Music Pavilion with a small favor, so he received a melody token that allowed him to enter and leave the Horton tribe. Otherwise, he would have to go through a lot of trouble to enter. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2754. As Lang Yue speaks, he walks to the edge of the jungle and lightly knocks in the air. The next moment, a miraculous scene happens. The void, which was supposed to be empty, began to ripple like water. Immediately after, a door of light slowly appears where Lang Yue knocks. Mayan's pupils shrink, and she murmurs, "What an exquisite array." After lighting up 2 stars of the Shin musician skill, Star's Curtain, Mayan's attainments in arrays can no longer be compared to before. So, even before Lang Yue knocks in the air, she had already discovered the existence of an array. Although the array outside the Horton tribe is not as powerful as the Myriad Caves formation, it is also extremely ingenious and exquisite. In the entire Shuzhen continent, this kind of array is rarely seen. After the door of light appears, Lang Yue says in a clear voice, "The Yunling Lang family requests to pass through the Snow Demon jungle to deal with private matters. I hope that Pavilion Mulu can accommodate us." As soon as his voice falls, the door of light flashes, and 2 figures slowly walk out. They are 2 tall and well-built men. Their bodies are wrapped in a cloth that looks like fur or spiritual armor. They don't wear pants, but a leather skirt. They are dressed like savages. But they have exquisite and luxurious musical instruments on their bodies. The man on the left has 2 small drums hanging from his waist, and the man on the right has a huqin on his back. Whether it's the waist drum or the huqin, they are all carved out of the best materials, and the edges are inlaid with gems. The extravagant and gorgeous appearance is in sharp contrast with the vulgar clothes of the savages. As soon as the 2 come out of the door of light, they immediately bow to Lang Yue and Lang Yaoshan. "We didn't know that the Yunling ancestor and the master would grace us with your presence. Please forgive us for not going out to greet you. We have come under the orders of the master to ask the 2 seniors, what is the purpose of your visit to my Horton tribe?" Lang Yaoshan waves his hand, and says impatiently, "This old man has no time to go to Mulu Pavilion. Go and inform your master that my Lang family is only passing through the Snow Demon jungle, and will not disturb the peace of your Horton tribe." This. The 2 show hesitation. Lang Yaoshan swung his hand, and a dark green jade tablet flew out from his sleeve. It floated in the air and slowly rotated. The patterns on the top of the jade token were faintly discernible as they rotated, flashing with light. It was hard to see them clearly, but it had a mysterious sense of ritual. The moment he saw the jade tablet, Mu Yen was stunned at first, then he suddenly opened his eyes wide, revealing a serious expression. When the 2 men carrying musical instruments saw the jade token, they immediately bowed and knelt on the ground. They trembled and said, "It turns out that the old ancestor of the Lang family has the music token. Please come in." However, just as Lang Yue, Mu Yen, and the others were about to enter, they were stopped. The 2 looked hesitant. "Ancestor, you also know the rules of the Horton tribe. Even the music song token can only bring 2 people in at most." Lang Yaoshan waved his hand at Lang Yue, who had an anxious expression on his face. "All right, even if you send a gentleman 1,000 miles away, you still have to part ways. What's the difference between parting here and parting in the Snow Demon Forest? All of you can go back now." He paused, his eyes tightly staring at Madame Lang, and his voice gradually softened. Rather than watching us disappear inside, it's better to part here. Madame Lang held back her tears and lightly nodded, as if she wanted to throw herself into his arms, but in the end she held back, and only said one sentence. We'll wait for you to come back. Bookmark easier to read. Chapter 2755. To provide you with exciting reading. As Lang Yue spoke, he walked to the side of the forest and lightly clasped his fingers in the air. In the next moment, a miraculous scene occurred. The void, which was supposed to be empty, began to ripple like water. Then, at the place where Lang Yue knocked, a door of light slowly appeared. Mu Yan's pupils shrank as she muttered softly, "What an exquisite array." After lighting up 2 stars of the Shin musicians, star curtain, skill, Mayan's attainments in the field of arrays can no longer be compared to the past. Therefore, even before Lang Yue knocked on the air, she had already discovered the existence of an array formation. The formation outside the Horton tribe might not be as powerful as the 10 Ultimate Caves formation, but it was still exquisite. In the entire cultivation continent, such a formation was rare. After the light door appeared, Lang Yue said in a clear voice, "The Yunlingling family requests to pass through the Snow Demon Forest to deal with some private matters. I hope Pavilion Mulu can accommodate us." As soon as he finished speaking, the door of light flashed and 2 figures slowly walked out. They were 2 tall and muscular men. She was only wrapped in a cloth that looked like fur or spirit armor. She didn't wear pants, but a leather skirt. He was dressed like a savage. However, each of them had an exquisite and luxurious musical instrument on them. The man on the left had 2 small drums hanging from his waist, and the man on the right had a huqin on his back. Whether it was the waist drum or the huqin, they were both carved with the best materials and were surrounded by gemstones. The extravagant and gorgeous appearance formed a sharp contrast with the vulgar clothes of the barbarians. The moment the 2 of them walked out of the light door, they immediately bowed to Lang Yue and Lang Yaoshan. "We didn't know that Yunling ancestor and patriarch would be gracing us with your presence. Please forgive us for not going out to welcome you. We've come under the orders of the patriarch to inquire about the 2 seniors. May I know why you've come to my Horton tribe?" Lang Yaoshan waved his hand and said impatiently, "I don't have time to go to the Cleansing Joy Pavilion. Go and tell your pavilion master that my Lang clan is only passing through the Snow Enchantment Forest and will not disturb the peace of your Horton tribe." This. The 2 of them hesitated. Lang Yaoshan swung his hand, and a dark green jade tablet flew out from his sleeve. It floated in the air and slowly rotated. The patterns on the top of the jade token were faintly discernible as they rotated, flashing with light. It was hard to see them clearly, but it had a mysterious sense of ritual. The moment he saw the jade tablet, Mu Yan was stunned at first, then he suddenly opened his eyes wide, revealing a serious expression. When the 2 men carrying musical instruments saw the jade token, they immediately bowed and knelt on the ground. They trembled and said, "It turns out that the old ancestor of the Lang family has the music token. Please come in." However, just as Lang Yue, Mu Yan, and the others were about to enter, they were stopped. The 2 looked hesitant. "Ancestor, you also know the rules of the Horton tribe. Even the music song token can only bring 2 people in at most." Lang Yaoshan waved his hand at Lang Yue, who had an anxious expression on his face. "All right, even if you send a gentleman 1,000 miles away, you still have to part ways. What's the difference between parting here and parting in the Snow Demon Forest? All of you can go back now." He paused, his eyes tightly staring at Madame Lang. His voice gradually softened, "Rather than watching us disappear inside, it's better to part here." Madame Lang held back her tears and lightly nodded. She seemed to want to throw herself into his arms, but in the end, she held herself back and only said one sentence, "We'll wait for you to come back." Chapter 2756. To provide you with exciting reading. Ling Yuma held Ling Wolan's hand tightly and looked at Ling Jixuan. Little uncle, I'll have to trouble you with my mother. Ling Jixuan shook his head gently and looked at Ling Wolan beside him with a gentle and doting expression. Ling Yuma smiled and said, whether we meet again in the future on the floating island or the Shushan continent, I hope that when I see my mother again, there will be someone by her side. Little uncle, you have to work hard. Ling Jixuan was stunned. He stared blankly at the woman in front of him. Her face was similar to Ling Wolan's, but more unrestrained than Ling Wolan's. Ling Yuma gently stroked Ling Wolan's hair and said softly, when she wakes up, please tell her that her daughter respects all her decisions. I only hope that in her next life, there will be no pain or resentment, only happiness. Ling Jixuan's eyes were slightly wet. After a long while, he said in a hoarse voice, thank you, Yuma. I have a feeling. He glanced at the people of the Xiaoyao sect behind Ling Yuma and said slowly, the Yunlingling clan is glorious, but I have a feeling that the Xiaoyao sect and you, Ling Yuma, will create a future that is 100 times more glorious than the Yunlingling clan. I look forward to the day we meet again. The figures of Ling Yaoshan, Ling Jixuan and Ling Wolan disappeared behind the light door. The snow demon forest regained its tranquility. But as long as someone tried to enter, they would be bounced out by the barrier of the formation. Luo Yu tried a few times and realized that she couldn't enter. She then retreated out of boredom. Just as he was about to comfort Ling Yuma, he realized that Mu Yan had been frowning with a strange expression. Sixth senior sister, what's wrong? Is there a problem? Hearing Luo Yu's voice, Mayan suddenly comes back to her senses. She frowned slightly and said softly, I seem to have seen the runes on Mu Le Pavilion's token somewhere before, but I can't remember where. Ha! Lang Yiwei was puzzled. Has Miss June seen the music song token? The music song token of Cleansing Le Pavilion is extremely precious in the entire cultivation continent. It is not easy for anyone to see it. Mu Yan shook her head, no, I have never seen the music song token, but I seem to have seen the runes on it. Strange, where have I seen it before? Why can't I remember? Lang Yiwei smiled indifferently and said, the runes on the music song token evolved from the Cleansing Joy Pavilion's emblem. What you saw was probably the emblem of Mu Le Pavilion, right? As he spoke, he broke off a branch and drew a few lines on the ground. A rune that was similar to the rune on the music song token but much simpler appeared in front of everyone. The moment he saw the pattern, Mu Yan's eyes suddenly widened, and he couldn't help but shout, I remember. Mayan has always been light and carefree, languid and calm. The people of the Xiaoyao school had never seen her lose her composure like this. Junior sister, what's wrong? What did you remember? Is there a problem with the emblem of Cleansing Joy Pavilion? Mu Yan didn't answer everyone's questions. Instead, she quickly sank her divine sense into the space and said anxiously, Qi Huang, quick, help me find a piece of swaddling cloth. Swaddling clothes. Qi Huang dusted off the grass on his clothes. What swaddling clothes? Xiaobao's. Ben Zun doesn't remember you, an unfeminine woman, using any kind of swaddling cloth for your son. Mu Yan took a deep breath, it's my swaddling cloth. Qi Huang stared blankly and turned to look at her. Mayan says with rapt attention, I finally remember where I've seen the runes on Mu Le Pavilion before. It's the embroidery on my swaddling clothes. Mobile users, please browse and read. For a better reading experience, please visit the website. Chapter 2757. Mayan says with rapt attention, I finally remember where I've seen the runes on Mu Le Pavilion. It's the embroidery on my swaddling clothes. Back then, when my adoptive father, Shinicheng, told me about my past. He said that my father, Jun Shiyuan, didn't leave behind any clues or objects for me to identify or find. The only thing he left behind was the swaddling cloth that was wrapped around me when I was still a baby. Then it was passed on to me. Until now, Mayan still remembers what her adoptive father, Shinicheng, had said. Jun Shiyuan was originally born in Yanwu continent. He ascended to the cultivation world before the age of 25. It wasn't until 10 years later that he returned to the Yanwu continent, carrying the still swaddled Mayan. At that time, Jun Shiyuan told Shinicheng that he was going to find his wife and take her back. She also requested Shinicheng to raise her daughter, Jun Mayan. From then on, Jun Shiyuan lost all news. The only thing that remained was the old swaddling cloth that Mu Yan was wrapped in at that time. It's been so many years since Mu Yan ascended to the Shuzhen continent. It's not like she hasn't inquired about Jun Shiyuan. However, in the end, no one had ever heard of this name. Unfortunately, Qi Huang also says that he and Di Mingju are unable to make an oath of alliance in front of the Stone of Three Lives, because Jun Shiyuan has already arranged an engagement for him. This meant that Jun Shiyuan was still alive, and it was very likely that he wasn't even in the cultivation continent. But where could he be? Was his biological mother still well? In the end, what happened back then that made them abandon her in the Yanwu continent and ignore her? The truth of all this has always been troubling Mayan, but there is no way to find it. Until today, she had finally grasped a clue. Don't worry, beautiful sister. Chio Chio will help you find it too. Chirp chirp chirp. Huang Huang was also looking for it. Qi Huang, all right, it's just a piece of rag. I'll reluctantly help you look for it. The space was quickly turned upside down by the three little ones. In the end, the little chick held a piece of red cloth in its beak and excitedly dragged it in front of Mu Yan. Gee goo 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 goo. Mummy. This was found by Huang Huang. Isn't Huang Huang stronger than Phoenix and Brother Red Pants? Damn fat chicken, are you looking for a beating again? Do you think I won't roast you? Go. Wah, mommy, save me. Brother Red Pants had gone crazy again. At this time, Mu Yan already has no time to care about the three little ones making a ruckus. Her divine sense quickly returns to her body. Sixth senior sister, don't scare me. Mayan opens her eyes and smiles at the worried members of the Xiaoyao school. Then, she looks at her hand. At this moment, there was a small piece of red cloth in her hand. It was a stretch to say that this red cloth was swaddling clothes. That was because it was not as tightly stitched as a real swaddle. On the contrary, it looked more like it had been casually ripped off from somewhere. The edges were already loose and bristling. However, this piece of red cloth was obviously of good quality. Even after so many years, there was still a faint surge of spiritual power. The red cloth was embroidered with exquisite cloud patterns, and in the center, there was a strange pattern. Luo Yu couldn't help but exclaim, this design looks exactly the same as the Mula Pavilion's emblem that Master Lang just drew. Lang Yiwei came over to take a look and was shocked as well. Is that really Mula Pavilion's emblem? This, where did you get this cloth? Mayan suddenly clenches the red cloth in her hand and takes a deep breath. She finally found a clue to find her father, Jun Shiyuan. Chapter 2758. Lang Yiwei was about to ask again when the earth shook violently. Then, a ray of light whizzed out of the forest and soared into the sky. Lang Yiwei looked up and said in a hoarse and trembling voice, "It's father," and the others succeeded. They went to the floating island. Ling Yuma's lips curled into a faint smile. She clasped her hands together and softly murmured, "Mother, you will definitely get better." The rest of the Lang family were excited. The spiritual energy in the cultivation world had been getting scarce and the immortal energy had dried up. As a result, there were very few cultivators on the continent who could advance to the Tribulation Transcendent stage, not to mention ascending to the peak of the Tribulation Transcendent stage. Although Ling Yaoshan and Ling Jishuan couldn't ascend to the immortal cultivation continent, they were able to go to the floating island, which was enough for the cultivators on this continent to look up to them. As members of the Yunling Ling family, how could they not be proud? Lang Yiwei coughed. Well, it's not the time to be arrogant. Now that father and fourth brother have ascended to the floating island, the Yunling Ling family lacks the two strongest pillars. It will be much more difficult to gain a foothold in the Ziyun realm from now on. All of you, keep your spirits up and don't go out and cause trouble, do you hear me? The Ling family quickly bowed in response. Yuma, why don't you follow me back to the Yunling Ling family? Lang Yiwei looked at Leng Yuma with concern. You, the unfettered seven, massacred Fusang City and obtained Fusang City's city-protecting formation. The news has already spread like wildfire across the entire cultivation continent. Who knows how many people have their eyes on you or can't stand the sight of you. But as long as you're in the Yunling, you'll be safe with the protection of the Cloud Essence beasts and the formation. Leng Yuma smiled. First uncle, we, the Xiaoyao Seven, have always been in this kind of situation. If we were afraid to retreat, how could we be targeted by others? Lang Yiwei looked at the others. The seven of them were all so young and inexperienced, but the light in their eyes was so dazzling. Their brilliance was unparalleled in the world. Lang Yiwei suddenly remembered what Ling Jishuan said. The achievements and glory of the Xiaoyao Seven would far surpass the Yunling Ling family. At that time, Lang Yiwei had dismissed it with a smile, but now, a heartfelt acknowledgement rose in his heart. Raging flames blazed Lang Yuma. My Ling family is proud of you, the descendant of our bloodline. When the flying boat left, Lang Yiwei left such a sentence. Only when the flying boat disappeared into the horizon did the seven of them look at each other and smile. Where are we going next? Do you even need to ask? Looking at Junior Sister's expression, she must want to enter the Horton tribe to find out what's going on. Of course, we can only risk our lives to accompany her. Hee, although I don't know what the Cleansing Joy Pavilion's emblem has to do with Junior Sister, I am very interested in the mysterious Horton tribe of the northern continent. When are we going to check it out? Wait, how can we enter the Horton tribe if we don't have one? Mu Yan looks at the chattering of her fellow apprentices. She can't help but curl up the corners of her mouth. There was a warm and joyful smile on his face. She didn't say anything about telling her fellow apprentices not to accompany her on this adventure. Instead, he raised his eyebrows and said lazily and arrogantly, even Fusang City's array can't stop me. Do you think the mere array of the Horton tribe can stop me? Chapter 2759. Give me a day, I'll take you around the Horton tribe. The eyes of the members of the Xiaoyao sect lit up. Tisk, TSK, TSK. Junior Sister, is there really anything in this world that you can't do? A talisman to assist in alchemy, and her combat strength is ridiculously strong. Oh my God, an ordinary person wouldn't be able to achieve this even if they studied for a lifetime, but Junior Sister easily grasped it. Is she even human? Chu Moli used his finger to lightly tap the armrest of his wheelchair, and said unhurriedly, what you've just mentioned, are all Junior Martial Sister's secondary duties. You seem to have forgotten what Junior Sister's main job is. Doctor. If Junior Martial Sister hadn't mentioned it, and if Chu Moli hadn't reminded them, they wouldn't have remembered it at all. Fortunately, Junior Sister is not good at cooking and needlework. Otherwise, I really wonder if there would still be a place for us mortals in this world. Mayan waves her hand, and says in a light and breezy manner, "All right, stop howling. Do you want the Quasi-King Dan that was just successfully refined? It's specifically used to strengthen the body." "Yes, yes, yes." Sixth senior sister, I just want you to be a little more powerful, a little more powerful, I want to hug your thigh. Junior sister, it would be great if you could learn how to refine weapons. Then we wouldn't have to worry about magic treasures anymore. Cheers and laughter could be heard outside the snow charm forest. After Mayan smiles, her line of sight can't help but fall on the depths of the snow demon jungle. Could she really find clues about her biological parents here? Mu Yan and the others were laughing and fooling around outside the Horton tribe, but they didn't know that the entire Purple Cloud realm had been set off by the massacre of Fusang City and the ascension of the Leng family's ancestor. North settling Marquis' estate. Chu Xinyan, who had just come out of seclusion, looked at his subordinates kneeling on the ground. The veins on his face twitched violently. "What did you say?" He didn't get Yi Liangchen's identity or the chaotic tower, but Lu Yu and Chu Mingquan died. The faces of the servants of the north-ranking marquis who were kneeling on the ground were deathly pale, and they couldn't help but shiver. Chu Xinyan could no longer hold it in. He fiercely slapped the air. "Trash! Trash! All of them were trash. Why am I raising trash like you? All of you, die." The person on the ground rolled on the ground and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Seeing that Chu Xinyan was about to approach again, the subordinate who was kneeling hurriedly shouted, "Marquis, please spare my life. Marquis, please spare my life. This subordinate has good news to report. Please spare my lowly life." Chu Xinyan looked at the person who spoke with a sinister gaze. "Speak, if you can't give this marquis good news, you should be very clear what will happen to you." The man who had escaped death wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and the sweat from his forehead. He knelt on the ground, trembling with fear. "Reporting to Lord Marquis, just before you came out of seclusion, there was a phenomenon of cultivators ascending from the northern continent." When Chu Xinyan heard this, he flew into a rage. "Are you mocking this marquis?" No, Marquis, please listen to me. In that strange phenomenon of ascension, there was a faintly discernible 9-leaf red lotus. That's the symbol of the Leng clan." Chu Xinyan's expression froze. The expression on his face kept changing. After a long time, he slowly said, "You are saying that the person who ascended is that old man Leng Yaoshan?" "Yes. Yes." The subordinate nodded repeatedly, his face full of flattery. "Other than Leng Yaoshan, who else in the Leng clan has reached the peak of the tribulation stage and is qualified to ascend?" In the past many of Marquis' important matters were because of this old man. He was afraid that the Yunling clan would cause trouble. Chapter 2760. But now, this old man has left. In the Shuzhen continent, who else can stop Marquis' grand ambition? Chu Xinyan's eyes flickered, his left hand gently rubbing the skin on the back of his right hand. As early as 2 months ago, this hand was like dry bark. But now it is smooth and firm. But Chu Xinyan knows that this kind of young, smooth, firm hand will not last long. He must think of every way to accumulate all the resources, so that he can obtain true longevity. Under the bright sunshine, the flowers and plants in Ding Bei Ho's mansion are particularly lush, tender and alluring. A beautiful butterfly flaps its wings and lands on the back of Chu Xinyan's hand, as if it is gently kissing him. However, the next moment, its wings are pinched and crushed into powder. Chu Xinyan's palm soars with a purple-black flame, completely burning the traces left behind by the butterfly. He sneers, "Your so-called good news is only this. Just one sentence, and the subordinate who had just breathed a sigh of relief is scared out of his wits. Chu Xinyan's eyes soar with a strong killing intent. Very good, since you are all trash, then become this Marquis's nourishment. Marquis, please wait a moment, this subordinate has another news. Chu Xinyan narrows his eyes, the killing intent around him does not dissipate. Someone cured the Murong family's blood fiend. Chu Xinyan is startled. As the most proficient in intelligence in the entire Shuzhen continent, Marquis has the widest network of eyes. Chu Xinyan certainly does not know what kind of disease the Murong family's blood fiend is. The Shui family's people? No, not the Shui family. The man kneeling on the ground says with a trembling voice, the Shui family's auxiliary skills can only alleviate the blood fiend, but that person completely cured the Murong family's blood fiend. This news came from a spy this subordinate placed in the Murong family. These words caused Chu Xinyan's pupils to suddenly shrink. Who is it? Who cured the Murong family's blood fiend? Someone from Mula Pavilion. The subordinate shakes his head again and again. Marquis, you should have some impression of this person. She is the strongest among the Xiaoyao's 7 sons, the most famous god-killer Mu Yan. She is the one who cured the Murong family's blood fiend that no one could cure for 1,000 years. The corner of Chu Xinyan's mouth slightly hooks up, the Xiaoyao's 7 sons, Jun Mayan, his lips opened and closed as he murmured softly. His eyes shone with a determined light. There's no rush. Wait for me to complete my grand plan. How could a mere female cultivator not be of use to me? At the peak of the Phoenix Heaven mountain range, Ning Su impassively thrust the demon-slaying sword in his hand into a man's chest. The man spat out a mouthful of blood and slowly fell down. His blood-stained hands couldn't help but grab onto Ning Su's trousers and shout, Why? Why, won't you let me go? I've already decided to abandon my cultivation and live the life of a mortal. Why, do you still want to kill me? Ning Su pulled his hand back and looked coldly at the balls of black murderous aura dissipating from the man's chest. His eyes lost their light, and he said coldly, Once one becomes a devil, one will be a devil for life. Damn it. You're the devil, you're the cold-blooded and vicious devil. With a thud, the man fell to the ground and stopped breathing. Ning Su didn't even look at him and turned to leave. However, just at this moment, a dazzling light suddenly soared into the sky from the northern horizon. Faintly, there seemed to be a red staircase floating in the air, faintly discernible. Bookmark for easier reading that you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.